Hello again. Let's get that turned down a bit here so we're not echoing. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, how's it going, guys? Looking forward to a nice night tonight. There's a couple of really cool things I'm kind of trying out, so you'll have to go with me. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. In last night's stream, usually I spend the first maybe, 20 minutes or so, sometimes longer, of the stream, kind of just talking about some specific things related to the tarot, to how we use it, and maybe some things that are a unique perspective for some people. And I hope to contribute to the overall understanding of this art. And, my goal with the channel, especially during times like this, are to, as much as possible, maintain the integrity of this art and to ensure that whenever anybody grabs any information from the channel, that it's solid and that it comes from a place that is a persistent thought form that's grown over time, usage, and so on. So that said, in yesterday's stream, I talked about the color of your soul, and it was the idea of how color can help us to sort of bridge the gap between multiple bodies of knowledge, including astrology, mostly, because astrology is such a personal experience, and it's very in the world. I mean, if you're in North America right now, and I live in the northeastern part of North America, and you go outside and look toward the moon, that big bright star that you can see near the moon is the planet Jupiter, and there's a couple of correspondences that are related to that are whether it's your sun sign, whether it's certain cards of the tarot, whether it's certain cards specific in the majors and so on. There's but you can also apply that to various other bodies of knowledge, right? And so today we're going to be talking about the voice of your soul and how that can be applied with respect to vibration and with respect to sound and music and things like that. Words spoken. Some words spoken that aren't words, that don't come from the voice, but and then the personal messages. Obviously, anybody who participates in my live stream is entitled to a free personal message. The way I derive that is by using the decanate to determine your birth card, and then we look at the period of time that we're in, and we kind of make a little mini horoscope from that. And that's a very good way to get a sense of like what's the kind of shape of your environment and over the next period of time, and how do you individually fit into that, right? And so, like, for instance, the period of time that we're in right now is ruled by the Deacon, the Ten of Pentacle, and the month, which in Virgo is ruled by the Hermit, or is representative. So within that circumstance, there's a lot of different techniques that we use. One of those is to do this sort of horoscope, and that can be very insightful. You'd be surprised what you can learn, not only about yourself if this is the first time you've approached your birth card, right, as opposed to say your sun sign or things like that we're very familiar with. The daily messages, which I put up once a day, there's 4, and they're on the channel now for the 14th, but whenever time allows, I like to go through them on a more long form basis on the stream, for those that are interested. Now, for the Meet the Deacons, what we're going to be talking about is actually, it kind of ties into Voice of Your Soul. And it deals with the Golden Dawn, specifically Paul Foster Case, had a list that he derived of the major arcana and their correspondence in music. And, I'm very sort of stuck on checking and kind of experiencing the information for myself. And so if I can't go through the process and come to the same finding, then I tend to not. I'll respect the information, but I tend to not apply it to my work, right? To my readings and to my meditations and so on. So, the question that arose was what color, the red being Aries, being the, Emperor, where does that start, right? Is that A440? Are we talking about middle C? Are we talking about some other note? Because I think that, anybody who wants to explore this can see right away the first kind of question to ask is like, where do we begin this scale so that we know where to go forward and backward, right? And numerically, how does that fit? And so, we know through our experience that the majors are split up into various groups, right? There's the planetary group, there's the constellations, there's the houses or the signs, and then there's the three elements, right? And so each one of these, I imagine, would have a different kind of role in determining what notes would be played. But that said, he has his system, and we'll be talking about that. However, what about the Deacons? What about these 36 small cards that are such an intrinsic part of the tarot? If the major arcana is the higher world, then the small cards are the minutia, the our individual experience, and that's the insight of where we are on this journey. And when we know that, we know where we came from, we know where we're going, and so there must be a correlation then, right? And so we'll talk about my theory on the three octaves and how that relates to the decadent in astrology, which is a very beautiful, elegant bridge between astrology and tarot. Okay, and so I think that's going to be fun to talk about. The Spotlight deck, Tarot of Ceremonial Magick, we're going to be using that today for readings for everybody and for all kinds of fun stuff. There's a link in the description to this deck if you, through watching me use it or have seen it before, are interested in buying one. There's a link not only to the Milo DuQuette and his Facebook, but there's also a link to a website where you can purchase the deck. That website is a New Age store that is responsible for the production of the deck. Okay, so then they're kind of the only place to go to get it officially, with a blessing of Milo DuQuette. Now, obviously, if you can't get it there and you have to have one, I'm sure there's other means. I personally think Amazon has enough money. And if you can give the money to a business, a small business or a creator, please do that, right? So that said, that's the Spotlight deck, and it's going to be a lot of fun to use because there's good information on here, not only with respect to what we're talking about with color and sound and these other things, but also with respect to some of the subjects with the Deacons and otherwise. So lots of good stuff is packed in here, and it's going to be fun to explore that as we go through these subjects. And the beautiful soul, and this is where I'm going to start today. This is a subject that I feel is time to kind of just sort of put out there and to maybe even grab as a snippet and put as a separate video, maybe even as the introduction to this channel, and that is Seekers and Guides. And what that means, and the reason I decided to put it as today's beautiful soul will become apparent when I talk about it. But Seekers and Guides is my roughly 3+ decades of readings, of personally approaching this oracle, and kind of being on the other side as well. And recognizing that there are different layers to the relationship between a reader and somebody that comes for a reading, and the how that can manifest and what the outcomes are and can be are I think an important part of the human experience in general, because there's this kind of connection between a tarot reader and the person coming for the advice, and the individual and how they interrogate their universe and how they interpret their own world, right? And that's an important connection, to say the least. So I'm going to begin there as well. And then random acts of wisdom. So anybody comes in the room, if you want, I'm just going to pull you a random card, and we're going to read that card for no reason, just to see what the message is for you at that moment. What is it that you're supposed to know? And that'll be a lot of fun. Shika, hello. Thanks for popping in on the stream. Here's your random act of wisdom. And this is the deck that I'm using for that today is the Deviant Moon by Patrick Valenza. Okay, so this is for Shika. Your card today is the Page of Pentacles. Okay, now whenever we see the page appearing in our readings, it implies some type of transient event about to take place. Something that's about to happen, but it's passing through. It's not sticking around. And now it's the Pentacle, which refers to manifestation of physical things, manifestation of desires of yours that began in the state of fire, water, air, and have now come to the point that they can become something real in this world, right? And what the Page of Pentacles is that energy attempting to make that happen. I like the art here and how he approaches that with respect to the wrench and this idea of like, finding out how it works and putting it together to make it happen, right? And the goal is to bring the pentacle, right? Which, if you'll notice, with all the stuff here and all this work that's been done, it's beautiful, it's shiny, it's perfect. So, like, the work can be successful. It's really a matter of up to you. And it's a matter, ultimately, at that point as well, of ensuring that we don't rush the work and that we don't succumb to, like, mental laziness, okay? Especially during the creative process. I think that's the most important time that we have to have that energy, so, alrighty. And Shika, we're going to be doing readings in a little bit. The list is open right now, and I'll make sure I put your name on. But it's just going to be a couple of minutes before we do that. There's a few things that we want to go over here real fast, and then that'll begin. So let me go ahead and put your name on the list here. Okay, great. And so when I start doing readings, you'll be first. Okay. And how it works is what I do, anyone that's interested in participating in a reading or a personal message or anything else that we're doing here, if I call on you and you're not there at the time, I won't be knocking you off the list. Instead, what I'll be doing is just putting you on the back. And so if you happen to have left to go to another channel and you come back, what we can do is you'll wind up coming back around, and then you can take your turn at that point. Okay. And so when we're ready to do the readings, I'll let everybody know. And in the meantime, your name's on the list. So we'll see you soon there. But that said, so that's your lesson for today. That's your random act of wisdom is the Page of Pentacle. Okay? And we'll kind of have some fun. There's also, whoever's interested, this is a fun little thing that I started doing a couple days ago that I thought might be interesting. It's a book that I picked up at a churchyard sale of all things. That is a sun sign book, but with kind of the perspective of humor. So what the author did is they take the sun signs and the descriptions, including the rising signs, which is great, but from the dark side, like the sort of comical dark side of the signs, and it's a lot of fun. So if anyone wants to do that, let me know, and we'll look up your sun sign and we'll find something interesting and fun. Some of the really fun ones are like the physical descriptions and things like that. But yeah, so that'll be fun to kind of pop in and out of during the stream tonight. And so before we start with readings, I think this is the subject that's most important, especially for the fact that half of the channel is personal readings for people, live during the stream here. And what that is somebody coming with something in their heart that they want answered, and somebody else that is willing to provide their insight. And now one of the things that I wanted to really discuss is this relationship. Seekers and guides are two different sides of the same coin, because ultimately the goal is this one thing, which is the answer, and the answer comes in multiple forms. I've spoken on the channel before about secret societies, magical organizations, things along these lines have an initiation process, and it's, although unique in each, it's identical in all. And we're all actually doing the same thing throughout our lives, unbeknownst. Arpita, hello, thanks for stopping in. And the initiation process is very specific, and it's designed to, well, weed out the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, and find people that are not only interested in the art, but devoted to it to a degree that you can expect them to learn the information and to maintain the integrity of the information. And now, I have these 3 cards here because I've talked about it before, especially in a group setting. There's a this kind of secret onion of layers of information, right? And so the first layer, where anybody who walks in the door, this includes religion, this includes education on a kind of public level, right? This includes government and laws and so forth. Anyone who pays the price of admission is given the information, is welcomed in and provided with the doctrine, right? What I call that, it's my own term, but I think it's relevant, is the truth or the lies told openly. Anybody who walks in the door can receive lies for free, told openly, and that is represented by the Hierophant, right? And that's kind of the idea of the I joke, the little white book definition of the tarot card. And does that work? Yes. You can take that little white book and, hand this deck to a child. This does work, as long as the deck is shuffled appropriately and as random as possible. And you hand this child this little white book from the deck, and they go through this process. They will come to some conclusion that is a useful perspective. It's just the nature of the tool. However, that's kind of where that would end, and that's the case in secret societies. It's the case in the initiation process. Then there's this second inner layer of the onion, which is not available to everybody. You can't just pay the dues and walk in the door. This is only available to those with the ears to hear. And this is what I call the truth told in secret. So if the Hierophant are lies told openly, and anybody gets that information, i.e. the little white book of the tarot, or the Bible on its surface, just the words in the book, typically with an agenda, right? Then the High Priestess represents that inner body of knowledge in people that have that know the secrets, or that are exploring it, because it is the truth spoken, but in secret, and so it's in symbol. And this is where I stay most of the time when doing tarot readings, because I feel like the surface meaning, why even come to me? You could even use an app for that, right? There's no interpretation necessary in the Hierophant. Your job is to take the information given to you and believe it. And you take the book, you read it, and you go on with your day. However, the High Priestess, or that inner knowledge, is a slightly different circumstance, where you have a deeper meaning typically, and it's one that's not so obvious. This is what occult means. Occult doesn't mean purposely hidden, but it means that it's not readily visible. It requires a little bit of digging, right? But however, the goal of that and the reward is enlightenment. It's a degree of knowledge that is not possible even for people who seek it through the Hierophant. All you get with the Hierophant is the old way. All you get with the Hierophant is rules. The 10 Commandments are 10 things you can't do, while the Kabbalah are 10 things you can do. Or the tarot is the sort of Western version of that. And so we have this idea of the relationship between the seeker and the guide. The seeker, in the example of the secret societies, is the individual that enters and wants to join the group and get the secrets and develop through this process, and there's an initiation, right? Well, there's also the idea of the seeker, of being the person that comes to the tarot reader. And so instead of it being a society that they're joining, what's occurring here is that they're joining a contract. And that contract exists on a spiritual level, if you allow it. If it's strictly mental, then you're in the Hierophant and you're never going to leave there. But in the next phase of knowledge is the High Priestess. It's the truth told in secret. And that's where most of my readings stay. But the point of this is that from the respect of the guide, from my role as the guide, I promise you that my approach is in that place, that I'm not relying upon my mind, I'm relying upon my ability to quiet that, my ability to recognize the separation and to listen to the correct voice instead of the voice that we usually identify with, right? And I sincerely vow to do that. And now, if you do the same thing, if you approach the situation rather than from this mental place of I have an agenda, i.e. I have a thing I want to hear, or a goal in mind and this is the thing I want to be achieved, and you're not open to the possibility of taking the wisdom for what it is, then the relationship is not all it could be, and in some cases can even be tense. Yambi, hello, good to see you. And I'm going to be starting readings here probably in about 10 minutes, not even. And you're on the list. And so it's very important when you approach a tarot reader that you understand what's actually happening here, because on the surface, a person's coming to a person and asking advice, and we're agreeing upon the fact that we both trust the system to provide insight, and you are trusting the reader to have the the openness to find it accurately, right? And so fine, but now there's a deeper possibility here, which is this inner knowledge, and that allows you to get closer to the true relationship of what's occurring here. And that is that souls are talking. Forget the fact that you're coming to a tarot reader with a question. You're coming somewhere with the intent of receiving an answer. You're seeking. And so it's not about the definition of that, here's my question and here's the answer I'm looking for, or here's my question, what's your answer? It's, I'm seeking. And that puts you in a state of reception. You are prepared to receive something. And so it puts you in a state of the cup. Now then there's the guide. The guide's job is very interesting because the guide has to be in a state of both reception and bestowal simultaneously. I have to receive the question, receive the understanding of what your actual motivation is, your energy, and not your personality, not the thing that we pretend to be through our lives, but the thing you are before we start doing that, right? I have to connect to that energy. And so that is a state of reception. But then I have to process what occurs here and then bestow at the same time. And that relationship is holy. If you are in a state of true reception, and I am in a state of authentic bestowal, that is perfect. And the knowledge that is derived from that is truth. However, that requires your participation as well as mine. I can't do all the work, and nor can you. If I'm not serious and I'm just going to tell you what you need to hear, or I think you want, and you're actually listening, you're going to receive bad information in a state of reception, and that's bad. And reverse is true. If you are not in a state of reception and I'm bestowing, it's lost. It's actually wasted energy, and it's a form of decay. It's entropy. It's death. So then we have this third layer of knowledge, which even people in the second layer aren't aware of most of the time. Perhaps they've heard about it or read about it, but even if they inquire, no, that's not true. That's just a thing you read. And there is a truth to that, because the third layer of knowledge is the truth told openly. If the Hierophant is the lies told openly, and the High Priestess is the truth in secret, the Fool, in this case, is the truth told openly. And this inner body requires initiation. The Hierophant accepts everyone. Come on in, just pay the dues. Here's our doctrine, now go learn it. Questions? Not, just read. But then you have the High Priestess, which is not available to everyone. It requires the ears to hear, and it requires a successful initiation. Then there's that inner sanctum. This is only available to a small body of people. You must be initiated. You must be invited. However, the members of that body can't invite you. And so it's an interesting kind of dichotomy. And what it refers to is that some things are so holy they cannot be taught. They can only be learned. They can only be experienced. And then you have the knowledge, having gone through that experience, and that's the only way. And that answer, that conclusion, is the inner sanctum. The answer is the inner sanctum. Nobody can give it to you. You already know it. And that's what the Fool is. Prior to the junk that we need to unlearn, prior to the lie that we tell everyone about who we are, including ourselves, we're the biggest victim of our own lies. The Fool is before that, and therefore their decisions, their understanding is untainted, albeit ignorant. But if you've gone through the process of initiation, you certainly are not. In fact, you are well equipped with knowledge. What the Fool does is ignore the lies. And so that said, this relationship between the seeker and the guide goes through the same process. And depending upon your commitment and the commitment of the reader, depends upon whether you are being lied to openly, whether you're being told the truth in secret, or whether you're being told the truth openly. And there's another symbolic relationship that is very true to what I'm talking about here when it comes to the connection between what all of you are about to go through tonight when we read together. And this connection between the seeker and the guide is illustrated very beautifully between the magician, the Two of Cups, and the world, also called the universe. I promise you that I will show up and I will be your magician. I promise you that my intent in this entire process is to do nothing but show truth. The Two of Cups is the union if you decide to do the same thing. This is a very important relationship because this is holy. This relationship has the opportunity to transcend the vocabulary of the human experience and to actually do the work of what we're supposed to be doing, which is to use that vocabulary to bridge that gap and to allow communications to take place between you and truth. And if you participate with me, if you promise to come with me together, to show up to this experience, then we won't get the little white book answer. We won't even get the truth in symbol. It will be open, right? And that's the goal of what we're trying to do here. Thank you, Ariel. I saw that, and you're first on the list. And so, as we go through the evening and the days and the weeks and the months together, and we go through this journey of discovering ourselves, to be clear, my goal, and it's singular in this channel, is to introduce you to you. And we can do that together. We can do that. I just need your help. And so this marriage is a very powerful one. And what is created from it, if you look at the image here in the middle, not only are the cups coming together, and that's a willful exchange. Here's my cup. Here's you're offering me yours, and we both willfully take that. The product of that is it's symbolized here by the snakes and the the winged lion. The caduceus. It's referring to, in this particular case, the elevation of the consciousness. Giving it wings, consciousness given wings. And then we have, obviously, the world, which is the work perfected. This is the child of this union. This marriage creates the perfected being. The wreath being the Ouroboros, the infinite, the four directions, and the person in the middle, the dancer. But I need your help. I can't do it alone. I can give you the white book message alone, but that's not what I'm here to do, and neither are you. So that's that. And I appreciate anybody who took the time to hear that. If you came in late, please start the stream over, and then you can hit live when we're done, when I'm in the middle of somebody else's reading or something like that. And so there's that. Now, I'm going to begin the readings tonight, and Ariel has donated, and I really, really thank you for that. And so we're going to ask a couple questions here about the reading and what you want to talk about and some other things in a sec. So let's just get that up here. And then the rest of the list will be as follows. Shika, if you're still here, say hey. You're first after Ariel. Arpita. Yamvi. Sibran. And then I'm going to close the list there. Okay. So here is the list as it stands. Let me fix that. That looks a little weird there. Pardon me. Let's see. I guess right after that should be good. Okay. Alrighty. So sorry about that. Okay. Now, Ariel, I don't remember your birth card. Just to have it. It's not going to be a reference to your reading. We'll do something different for that. Otherwise, let's take a look at, let's shut that off, that's for later. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. And if you don't remember your birth card, then we can look it up. If there's a specific deck that you'd like me to use as well, let me know. Otherwise, today I'm using the Tarot of Ceremonial Magick. I still have the Tarot of the Abyss, which is very popular with my regulars. They love Tarot of the Abyss. I am also using Alchemical Tarot, Robert M. Place. I have Holy Light out tonight. Deviant Moon, which I'm using for the Random Acts of Wisdom. It's a kind of a neat deck for that particular purpose too. It's a good one for that. Or we could just go with the Ceremonial Magick. So you tell me. Yeah, your birth card. So basically what we do is we find the card that represents your deacon, the deacon at the moment of your birth. And so the deacons are the 10-degree periods of time that the ancients cut the sky up into, and that is represented in multiple bodies of knowledge, including the tarot and astrology. So cool. So then I'm going to use the one that I have out, and then we'll change the deck if I feel the need. So you'll see the ring here on the outside are the small cards. Oftentimes people ask, hey, where did the small card meanings come from? Right? We understand where the symbols came from. It's the numerical progression of 2 through 10. But why does the 2 mean this? Why does the 4 mean that? And of course there is the numerological connection, but there's also this astrological connection, which is where the meanings were derived. It's more astrological than numerological. And so how that's done is that we look at the 10-degree periods, and so you cut a circle into 10, you get 36 different sections, and those are quite conveniently the 36 small cards, the 2 through 10s. The aces represent the seasons, and so they are not part of the decadent. They're more, the 3-month chunks of the seasons. So June 4th puts you in the period of, well, normally, when people ask you, you tell them Gemini. Well, now you are the 9 of Sword, and that puts you in the period of Mars in Gemini. Mars in Gemini. And that's the distinction here, is that we use the language of astrology in order to dig a little deeper, to turn the microscope a little closer so we see more detail. And so, yeah, Gemini, but now we have this extra detail of Mars, right? And that's, if you'll notice in the orange section, everybody, what we're talking about is the birthday of June 4th. And you'll notice that's represented in that 10-degree period there in Gemini, between 10 degrees and 20 degrees. And that is the 9 of Sword. That is Mars in Gemini. And it also shows, and this is important if you follow the elemental system of various different versions, whether it's the witchcraft version, the hermetic version, you name it, the runic. In this particular case, you have the triangle pointed up, which represents air, and so this is an air sign to those who follow the elements. Right? And so all that knowledge is kind of built into the Deacons system. Right? I happen to like that particular diagram because basically what that is that you take a spreadsheet, you radialize it, and then you line the text up so it's readable, and it becomes a quick way to jump and look at what's the period of time we're in, where are we going, right? And so we're in the period of the 10 of Pentacle, and the major, which rules the month, is the Hermit because of Virgo. So when we apply that to individuals' birth card and the period of time, it's like a mini horoscope. So, is there a particular subject that you wanted to read on, or a particular reading? The spreads that everybody knows, certainly I can do. So if you're interested in like a Celtic cross, there's a couple of readings that I've begun sharing publicly that I usually don't share publicly. The Mind, Body, Soul I started doing on the channel, and so unbeknownst to the people on the channel, that's the first time I've shared those publicly. And then the Soul Talk. What the Soul Talk is an idea of the difference between our will, the real one, and our body, or our the will we think is ours, the ego, right? And so that relationship and where you are, where you think you are, what drives your desire, is very different oftentimes than your higher self. And so if we can help to understand what the motivation of our higher self is, and to kind of get out of our own way, we can begin to hear the words, right? I talk about very often with the Hermit is the lesson, and that's the period of time that we're in. This is relevant to everyone in the room, not just Ariel. Talks about the fact that there is no truth in the light, because the light shows us everything, and so it's kind of hard to discern between the truth and falsehood. But in the darkness, we have no choice but to use something other than our eyes, right? So we can't rely upon what we see, and so we're forced to use something else. And the lamp of the Hermit is that thing, and the superpower of that lamp is it only shines on the truth. So, but we can only do that in darkness. And so it's kind of that same idea, but as opposed to the Hermit, which is on kind of a different level than that. The goal here is to basically have a conversation with our higher self, and to get a sense of what's best for us, that's going to lead us down the path, that's not going to stop us from moving forward karmically, right? And so that's a great reading. The Celtic Cross is also great. It's pretty good at looking at the different circumstances, You get to pick the particular situation, so that's not bad. And if you've done a Celtic cross toward a particular subject, and then you compare it a month later, you can kind of see the evolution, so that works. I like that a lot. The astro houses, this is something that there's multiple kind of versions of out there, but the concept is the same. But what we do is we explore the houses of astrology, and then we look at the influence in each. It's 3 cards per house, and then we go through that process. And now what I've done, which I think it might be unique to my own little system and the people that kind of follow my teaching, is that once I do each house, I shuffle those 3 cards back into the deck and reshuffle for the next house. And so each house is a fresh shuffle. And so it's incumbent upon you, me, or otherwise to either screenshot or take notes on. Now, we don't really have to here since it's on video. We have the ability to just go back and watch it, but to go through that. So if we do the astrology house reading, just know that I shuffle the cards back in. So what I'm getting at is that we're not going to have that pretty picture at the end where we can take a snapshot of all the cards because they get shuffled back in, right? Great. Okay, sure. Let's do that. And one way to do that, I guess, actually would be to I'm gonna use a random act of wisdom to do that. Okay, so if everyone's okay, I just need a couple of minutes to center and be ready for this. Normally we do kind of random readings and we do personal messages, things along those lines. But this is going to be an in-depth reading, and it's going to get pretty heavy because that's what I do. Like I told everybody here, I work in the middle space. I don't work in the lies told openly. I work in the truth told in secret. And if you're open to it with me, like I talked about, and we can actually develop this relationship between the seeker and the guide, and really go as far and deep as we can, then we're going to have the best experience, right? And so that said, I just want to kind of get centered and be prepared. Just take a minute. Artie, hello. How you doing? I'll throw you on the list. I closed it, but I'm going to put your name on. So let me just put Artie's name on here. And then Ariel, I just need like 2 minutes to go center, and I'll be right back. And then we'll begin your reading. Okay, so here, Artie, you're on the list. Let's put that down there. Okay. There's that. Great. Okay, great. All right, and so then I'm just going to prepare. We'll light some incense, light a candle, center the energy, and have a great reading. Okay, Ariel? So I'll be back in just a couple minutes, and then we'll begin. Okay. do this. Okay. So now I have a couple people here and a couple puppies and whatever the case. So I let everybody know that I'm going to need some, like a chunk of time. And so hopefully we're going to get that. We'll see. You never know. But that's actually kind of part of the fun part. So now, first of all, Ariel. So now that we have your sun sign, we're just going to have a little fun. And so, random act of wisdom. First thing is let's just get a random card for you. This is from the Deviant Moon, Patrick Valenza. Beautiful deck. I just, I love the art because it's focused on the Rider-Waite system we're all familiar with, but at the same time, is this completely immersive world where it's so consistent throughout the cards, in coloring, in mood, in texture, that you just get sucked in. And so if you haven't seen the deck and kind of explored it, like the story in order, it really is something. So the random card, this is just random right now for Ariel, is the Two of Wand. Okay. Now, we could kind of look at and oftentimes what I do is I look at the Rider-Waite version, but I'm not going to do that this time, right? So let's just look at this particular interpretation of that. Okay. And let's go zoom into here. Okay. And now this person is obviously, again, seeking, right? This is somebody who's looking for something. And actually, it looks like they've already found a couple, but they're still looking. So, like, there was kind of like a half answer, right? You were seeking, and you sort of thought you knew, but there's something missing. So you're still looking, right? And so that's the random kind of, for Ariel. And now also, this is a fun little thing. I got this book at a yard sale at a church. Which I think is funny already. Full disclosure, I'm a deacon in a Christian church, right? And I'm not 100% sure how to approach my my work with the tarot and my work with the Hermetic and the esoteric body of knowledge. Christianity is one sort of vehicle for me to counsel and to enlighten and to ameliorate and to heal. And so, but that said, it's not exactly where you expect to see an astrology book, right? Like I kind of don't really broach the subject of tarot too often, as you can imagine, at church. But that said, though, this is an interesting book. It covers the sun signs, but then it also, at the same time, has this like dark side to it. Like it's a humorous take on the sun signs, right? So let's look up Gemini. And then the first thing that's really funny is they all have a like a funny title for the signs, which is they're all really unique. Okay, let's see. Gemini. Okay, there's Leo. There we go. Okay. So, this is the divine discontent. She's funny. Okay, so, look at this. Someone actually highlighted that. Here's a funny thing about Geminis. Both my parents are Gemini. Anyone in the room that understands astrology knows that I had 4 parents. So, physical appearance. Geminis are perennial teenagers in appearance, always looking younger than they really are. Let's just go with the highlighting. And the alert eyes are always full of humor and inspired confidence. Okay, so do you inspire confidence? Do you appear younger than you are, Ariel? Is there actual truth in this particular book, or is it just silly, right? Like, I mean, obviously, don't you wish every Gemini was like that? I guess that's true in my father's case until he, sort of grew everything out and has a big old white beard. I wonder where I got that from, right? Great. Awesome. Oh, lots of highlights. The arms are long and the hips remain straight and youthfully slim throughout life. Lucky you. She eats pizza and the thighs and legs are symmetrical and move with great agility. The hands and feet are small and delicate. The Gemini gait is light, easy, and rapid. The carriage is straight and controlled. Ballerina, gymnastics, ninja spy. There's a couple of particular jobs you'd be good for. Personality, here's something that was highlighted. And their conversation is well-informed and often brilliant. That's a superpower in and of itself, right? Being able to have a good conversation. It's also really rare nowadays. And then the rising signs. If you happen to know your rising, I'll read it. Otherwise, then we'll just move on. But this is a lot of fun. This book's really fun. And we don't charge at the yard sales. What we do is we just a donation, pay whatever you want to pay for whatever you grabbed. And so I think I paid like $2 or $3 for it. It's from 1974. Just great. It's just so much fun. Okay, so I'll put it aside in the meantime, and if you want to revisit it or whatever, we'll go through rising signs and other stuff like that, at the appropriate time. So, that said, let's just kind of center our energy real fast. And I'm going to light a candle and get some incense going. Bamboo. This is a handmade candle by somebody locally here. They're great, and they really know how to, they know how to do the scents. It's really something. Okay, so let's. I feel really good today, guys. I don't know about you, but today was a nice day, and it was, it was a cool thing. It was mostly kind of like a sunny warm, but then there were these moments where kind of clouds rolled in and it got cool, and there was a tiny little sprinkle of rain where it was more misty, so you were just kind of walking into this like cool kind of moisture, and then it would dry right away when the sun hit you. I don't know, it was just one of those days that I enjoyed it. Okay, and let's get this incense going. Okay, I think it's lit. Let's see. Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, I don't know if you can see the incense there. There it is. Yeah, it's right over there. That's my cup, by the way. This is my little, my little temple, right? So here's my sword. Here's my wand. This is my pentacle, and here's my cup. And I use my cup to hold my incense, and I put the ashes in the cup, and it's and then here's my little magician. He's interesting too, because he's very sort of indicative of a figure in many magical circles. His name is John Dee. I encourage, if you don't know who John Dee is, you should check him out. I'm in the Hudson Valley in upstate New York. And, that said, anybody who is in the northeastern part of the United States, go outside and look toward the moon, and you're going to see that big bright star. There's actually two, one on either side. One that's bright and one that's kind of bright, but not as bright as the other bright one, is Jupiter and Saturn. And so Jupiter and Saturn are dancing around the moon right now. And it's a beautiful sight. And then Venus rises with the sun right now, too. So it's this gorgeous dance between Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus, which, if there's any particular Sagittarians in the room that happen to share my period of time, I know there's one. what a beautiful dance, right? Because we are Saturn in Sagittarius, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So we're watching Saturn, Jupiter dance around, and then the sun rises with love. So what a period of time that we're in right now, right? I mean, man, it's gorgeous. The mountains are beautiful. They are postcard, right? No matter what the season is. Midwest, well, yeah, well, you know, the Midwest can be beautiful as long as you're able to somehow manage to find corn beautiful, which it is. Corn is beautiful. Just when all it is rows of it for hundreds of miles, that can get a little old. But you have factories, so there's that. I kid. The reason I'm saying that is I have friends who live both in Illinois and in Indiana, and so I can kind of joke through osmosis. But no, the Midwest has its advantages. It gave us Barack Obama. But yeah, so that said, though, you know, I'm realizing that this incense might, if my smoke alarm goes off, I apologize. I'll get it corrected as soon as I can if we hear that blaring noise from the incense. But yeah, regardless of the season in the mountains here, it's just gorgeous. Sunflower farms, I cannot imagine. There's a piece of artwork I did once years ago that is 4 sunflowers kind of looking. I don't know, it's just, but they're a special flower. To see a field of them, I've never actually experienced that with my eyes. I've seen pictures of them and stuff like that. I've never actually witnessed like a whole, you know, that would be something. That would really be something. But yeah, so, but that said, yeah, the mountains are gorgeous. They come with a cost, right? We have bears and stuff that go through our garbage, and we have deers. Like I have vegetables out front, and tiger lilies, things like that. And the deer eat our tiger lilies. I have a neighbor across the street with this beautiful snowball bush. If you don't know what a snowball is, it's like a batch of flowers that's like about this big round, and they're all over this bush, and it's so gorgeous. And the deer come and eat it. It's like, and then suddenly, so one day you're like admiring this bush, like, wow, look how beautiful this. Oh my God, I mean, it's just gorgeous. And these splashes, and then the next day you walk outside, it's bare. There's not a single flower on the whole thing, and you're like, wow, that was a hungry deer. It's true. And how do we know? Because the neighbor has a ring bell, and so we were able to see the deer doing it. Busted. And that makes sense why I suddenly have no tiger lilies. Oops, let's try that a third time. No, that doesn't want to look at that. It doesn't want to shuffle. So I'm not gonna. I'm taking it where it is. Okay, that's that happens occasionally. You know, people who have read cards a bunch of times know that sometimes, like, the riffle won't happen. If you try 3 times and it's like literally blocking you from putting the cards together, they're where they belong. So, Ariel, that said, let us begin. Now, the card that we got as your random card that I thought would be a good way to decide kind of what to read on, was 2 of Wand. Oh, puppy sneezing. You okay, buddy? Okay. And so let's find it, and then we'll use that as a significator, right? There we go. Okay. I'm going to shuffle now that I've looked. There we go. Now. So, you know, and interestingly, this deck, which is we're going to talk about tonight at length, has a lot of really good information on it, which is one of the reasons that I decided to spotlight it is because it's tied into a lot of the things that I'm speaking about on the channel with respect to the voice of your soul, which we'll be talking about tonight, the 3 octaves, all that. And how this ties in is specifically the deacons, like we talked about, are actually present on the card for you to just reference right there. So you don't need to jump to a wheel and find a period of time. If I wanted to know what the 2 of Wands was referenced to, you can see it in the like right here in the card, right? And so you don't have to. And what this is referring to is 0 to 10 degrees in Aries, so it's going to be on that side of the wheel, right? So on the far right side of the wheel. And we also see, which is just interesting with respect to this particular card, this deck, rather, is that we have this information right up here, right? So we know that without even looking at that wheel, we know that it is Aries and Mars, right? We have Mars and Aries. And we also know that it is the watery part of fire, okay? Because it's a fire element, but it's the watery version of that, right? There's like a watery element associated with it. But then he also, if you don't want to go through that decoding of the symbols, and you didn't memorize your symbols yet, so you're not sure if that's Mars or is that, I can't remember if that's Aries, or does that mean, is that Taurus, whatever, right? It's say you're in that place in your learning. It's just right there. It's written out for you. Mars and Aries Dominion, right? Give me just a moment to pop one last thing up here. There we go. Okay. And so now, very interesting to reiterate, because we were talking about this with respect to, let me put that, I guess, right there, with respect to the idea of seeking, looking, right? Like you're still in a state of seeking. Now, and that's, if you look at the energy of the Rider-Waite version of this card, it's a card of waiting. But there's also a hidden knowledge, right? Like we talked about, there's various versions. So this is a card of waiting, typically in the White Book definition, right? But let's go to that inner meaning. If you look on the bottom of the wand, the staff that's on the right-hand side, the one that's not being held, the one that was supposed to be for somebody else, it's not just leaning there. It would have fallen over by now, like, right? It's not actually leaning. And you can kind of see that. Where's my hand? Yeah. You can kind of see that in the fact that this wand is it's not quite leaning. You can see the arch, right? So it would have fallen through. The reason it's standing up is that there's a little ring of right in there. There's a little ring that the wand has been stuck through, okay? And now what that implies is that this person realizes that this person is not going to be there for a while, if ever, and so he put the second wand away. There's a sad feeling once the meaning of the card hits you. It's the idea of capitulation. It's the idea of recognizing they're not going to show up. And so, but now this is also a card of hope in the respect that, notice this person is not looking at the wand sad. They're looking at, they have the world in their hand, staring out at the possibility. So that's not a bad card to start a reading with, right? And that's certainly not a bad card. Do I sell my art? I have. I don't typically as a like as a business. I've attempted to. Like, I've thrown stuff up on the internet with the intent of selling it, and it turns out nobody cares, and it didn't bother me. Art's very personal. But there have been pieces that I've created that people have been moved by and have convinced me to give up for money. But that said, though, so yeah, I have sold art. Yeah. I do intend on selling art in the future, which is going to be in the form of a tarot deck. When it's ready to be shown, but so So you get that idea, right? We have this idea here of done waiting, right? So the little white book meaning is waiting, but the actual meaning is that you're done waiting, and it's time to move forward. Now, that puts you, therefore, interestingly, into a state of seeking, right? So, like, you're done waiting, so it's like, all right, well, now I have this thing I'm looking for. And we're going to find out what that is. So, Lauren, how's it going? Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And so, well, stick around tonight because we're going to do a little bit of deeper meanings. That's kind of my thing on this channel. And I've said, and this is a good opportunity just to kind of have a sidebar for a moment. Random act of wisdom. There's a very important part of my soul that is hell-bent intent on maintaining the integrity of the art of tarot. And it's very easy for mainstream personality, graphic designers with no understanding of the system, and seekers, not their fault, who are presented with a potential for answers to create a buzz and then fulfill that. Right? I get that, but now the problem is that severely damages the integrity of the system, and once that happens, the magic is gone, and I mean that literally. There's a very important magic, which is the idea of the thought form, and the idea of that knowledge gains momentum when used over time, and psychically it gains this momentum, and therefore it becomes an archetype that is actually literally accessible by people who have never even touched it. This is the idea of the Harvard study where a crossword was done one day, and then the next day, after the crossword had been solved by 10 million people, it's easier for people to solve that crossword puzzle because there's literally an inherent kind of global knowledge of this event taking place, and some people are psychically sensitive to that. That's the reality. Now, if you consider that tarot is a very powerful vocabulary that's been used for much longer than you all think, much longer than most of. I don't think we'll ever really know how old, but suffice it to say, it's older than most religions. And that said, the power of that symbol system, and therefore the preciousness of the integrity of that system being maintained, cannot be overstated. So that said, going deep is kind of, my thing. And so now, this card then, I think what we should do now that we've uncovered that you are done waiting and now you're looking, let's find out what it is you're looking for. I think that's not a bad question to ask now that we understand the real you's will of looking out, and there is a target. There's something you're actually, let me get rid of that card right there. There is something that you're actually looking for. Wow, okay. I don't want this to sound cliche, but you're looking for yourself. Okay, and let's just look at the card, and you come to that conclusion on your own or not, but come on. Any questions? Okay, good then. Airy or water part of water, like all water. The moon part of moon, like all moon. This is as feminine of an energy in the tarot as you can get. With very, very, very little exception. Maybe one or two cards, maybe one. I'm not even going to go there because I don't want to open up a hole. But yeah, I think this is really ultimately one of the most feminine cards in it. So what you're looking for is yourself, and now this is huge because when you are really honestly in that place, something really cool happens, because now it's in the transitions that stuff occurs. It's not when you're sitting at home. It's when you're getting ready to go somewhere, right? And it's in that transition where the energy gets built, the motivation it's like that. It's during the transitions that things take place. And clearly, based on the energy that we're seeing in this so far, you are in a transitionary period, and in fact, you're at the end of that transition, more appropriately. The wings have sprouted. It's time to fly. Kind of, you're at the end of the metamorphosis, right? And that's cool. Now, also, I love this symbolism too, because what's this person doing? They're using 2 sticks and rubbing them together to make fire, right? They're like, it's time to make fire. And what is that aimed at? You. Who am I? Because now, one of the things as well that you can in a perspective, I keep forgetting to get rid of that thing. I'm sorry, it distracted me. One of the perspectives is this idea of the fact that you're done waiting implies that there was something you were waiting for. There's some experiences that have taken place, and those things have informed kind of where you are. Those things have informed your personality. There's these events that take place in our lives, and we create a character that we become, right? We create, like, this isn't who I am, I'm pretending. And so are you, don't lie. And we let each other pretend, and we don't call each other out that we're pretending, so that we can do the same thing and whatever, and we call that self. And that thing, that lie, that character that we make up, most of the time is kind of automatic. We don't realize we're doing it, and it's formed through experience, through our experience with other people, our experience with ourselves, and how we feel about things, and so on, and all that is combined. Now, what this is referring to, too, is that empty person, is the idea of kind of like what you really are before you've taken on all these roles and this character. And when you are in a transitionary period, this is an opportunity to, even though you could do it right now, you don't need to be in this period, but it's easier. You have an opportunity to become something new, to actually say, wait a minute, I don't actually like this, or I actually like this thing. And I wasn't allowing myself to be truthful because of XYZ reason. I let the world get into my thoughts, or I was trying to be something for somebody else, or I developed certain personality traits to cope. But then I owned them, and they became me. And now I'm recognizing that's not who I am. There's a lot of circumstances that takes place where you decide it's time to kind of do this. And in this particular case, too, there's this idea of the feminine. It's this idea of perhaps you have a nurturing quality that you're not exploring, a psychic quality you're not exploring. Maybe you're having inkles of wanting to have kids, or to nurture, or to adopt. That kind of idea. And we can look at that further, and we may get there in a sec. But so far, before I start pulling out any additional cards or anything else, I just want to kind of pause and ask if you have any questions or need any insight about anything I talked about so far, before we go any further. Wow, yeah, in the story of the Prince and the Toad, you're not supposed to turn into a toad, right? That's unfortunate. Yeah. Okay, so now let's look at that then. I mean, but that passed, right? Like, that's the thing that passed, so that's cool. And I'm glad that the key word in here is that you tried to change yourself, which means you didn't succeed, and thankful for that. It's easier to drop the nonsense if there's not too much of it, if it's not too heavy, right? If you didn't allow too much to build up, then it makes it a little easier. So, yeah. But so, that said, though, I think, maybe one of the questions that we're going to want to look at, and let's just throw some out before we actually commit to anything. I think one of the directions we might want to go here is, like, what now? Like, the action. Like, what's the next step I should take? Because if the idea here is, as you're done waiting and it's time to sort of like get that new flame sparked, and the goal here, the purpose of the work is finding yourself. So how do you do that? Like, what's the next step? What should you be doing or not doing, you know? Or what should the focus then be for your mind to go to say, okay, well, this I can do. This, here's my bullet points. Here's a list I can knock out. And hopefully at the end of this list I'll have, you know, grown, right? What's the first line of that list? That's one question we could ask. Another question that we could ask is, and this comes to like kind of the soul talk idea. Here's a beautiful little piece of knowledge, is that you, not Ariel, you, live at the end of time. You are already there. You know the blueprint. You've read the book. You lived it. And are waiting for yourself, Ariel, to catch up, right? You're waiting for yourself to catch up through time. But here's the important part of that. The soul wants us to succeed. It wants us to suffer less. It wants us to enjoy life more. It wants us to choose pleasure over pain. It wants us to grow. And very much like the idea of the light of the hermit is the idea of the sound of your soul. It's you can't hear it with your ears, right? And now it wants something very different than you typically, but sometimes you find this moment where you're in a transitionary period, and so you're not 100% locked on to a certain vector, like you're not going in that direction, period, right? And so there's an opportunity, and during that time where there's a little bit of a volume down because you're in this transitionary period, you can hear that voice a little better. And if you want to and go through the steps, you can hear it loudly. It's a similar process to going into the darkness to see the inner light with the hermit. So another question we can ask is, what are we not hearing? Because it's being drowned out, right? So those are a couple of ways we can go with respect to what we already know and what direction to go in, right? So there's the action card, and then there's the soul talk, right? So which really I think what rings more important to you? You tell me, and we'll go that direction. You know, it's funny, aren't we all waiting for the prince, you know? There's a very funny reason why that actually never works. Waiting for the prince never works. You know, anybody that's been in my channel for any period of time, if you've seen more than one stream, then you know this symbol right here. Okay, I'll do the action card. You know this symbol right here, and we talk about it all the time. These are the deacons and so on and so forth, right? And the 10-degree periods of time and so on. Each one is a small card, right? But where are the court cards? Where's the knight? Where's the queen? Where's the, right? Well, there was a different wheel for that. And I don't share it too often because it's a little deeper and there's more information on here. But basically, I want you to notice one thing, and then I'm going to get off of this, don't worry. This is for later. You'll notice that on the outermost edges are the court cards. And now the outermost edge is the princess. And then you have the queen, prince, and knight. The princess is like the real boss here, so to speak. The princess is the throne of the ace. The princess is the vessel for physical manifestation of all of the elements that are personified by the prince, knight, and queen. So the princess is really the ruler of this whole system. All of it. The princess rules all of it. And so it's funny, like waiting for the prince is just a, from the language of tarot, kind of opposite of the way it, the actual energies work, and the princess is the one that kind of, the Queen of Cup is about to become the next princess. The Queen of Cup is in a transitionary period. If you look here and you want to see the Queen of Cup, it's in that period of time in the top left, which is kind of like the winter. You just left winter. You just made it through winter, right? And there's all these little dynamics about what that means. All these different connections between the relationship of the princess and how she becomes pregnant through the prince, who then gets elevated to knight, king, and then when that happens, she gets elevated to queen, and then so on. It's this little dance of the court cards, and the princess is the seed of it all. That she is the ace. That's why the aces don't exist on that other wheel, right? This other wheel doesn't have any aces and doesn't have any court cards. The ace is the princess. It's the egg that is seated in her, waiting for the prince, so to speak, to consummate and to make the trip into kinghood and queenhood. But so that said, though, and that's really just symbolic language for the elements playing together, and fire applying to water makes air, and so on, all these things. So that said, this is the watery water. That's why there's two blue here. This is the watery water, as opposed to fiery water, airy water, so on. But so let's look at the action card now. 4-year relationship. Oof. Man, that's not a joke. 4 years is long enough for stuff to go down, man. Like, that's 4 years is long enough for that to be like real. And it's not easy to get over that. I mean, just think, if you're 40 years old, that's 10% of your life, right? And if you're 20, that's 1/5 of your life. Although 4 years is a long time. However, it's really funny. Here's the point, Ariel. First, I just want to say, you are going to fall in love again. When? Who knows? Who knows? But we'll talk about some of that tonight. But oh crap. Wow. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? And the worst part is like, how do you feel is one thing, but then how do you, like, what about his wife? Like, this guy, that's just awful for everybody, and that certainly makes a lot of sense too. Yeah, that's just awful, really. That's such a level of inauthenticity that person really has no identity. God bless them. And good thing you're not with him anymore. I mean, obviously there was an energy there that you didn't know existed, but thankfully, you're not still in that circumstance. That's just awful. Let's take a look at the action card. What should she do next toward the goal of knowing herself? Okay, so what we're looking at here, just to be clear, is an icon, a sign. This is not the answer. It's a sign with an arrow pointing at the answer. It's the truth in secret. So we have to do a little decoding. Okay. 8 of Cups. The 8 of Cups, there's two meanings for the 8 of Cups. Well, there's, every card has 2 meanings, right? There's a little white book and then there's the... So the little white book meaning is you're lazy. You're walking away from your responsibilities. All right. And that's the little white book meaning. Let's take a look at this here. Okay. All right. All these cups are something that you have to face, and you're like, nah. And there's this idea of not wanting to face it, and there's this idea of kind of there being a laziness of like not taking care of business or walking away from your responsibilities, right? That's the little white book meaning, and that's not the meaning that I assign to the card. Could it mean that? Yes, and it depends upon the other cards that are surrounding it for it to have that particular circumstance, and I don't get that here. Another way that you can look at this, and this is where I typically go with this card, is the journey of the Hermit. You're being asked to go through this journey right now, twice, right? You are in this state of wanting to find yourself, and the only way to do that is in the dark with the Hermit, right? That's the idea here, and this is also the idea of making light, right? Like you want to shine the light on the truth. That's what we're talking about here. Now, the Hermit's the way to do that. That is the gateway to enlightenment of the self. To see inward, you use the tools of the journey of the Hermit. Now, my interpretation of the white, the 8 of Cups, which might be a little bit unique compared to the little white book meaning, is the journey of the Hermit. In order that we are able to effectively go through this journey, we can't take a bunch of stuff with us, because then we're just looking for an echo chamber. We're looking for a mirror, and that's not where we see the truth. We see lies in the mirror. Ask Harry Potter. It's not the truth, it's what we want to see, right? But if we are strong enough, we can walk away from some heavy stuff that we have relied upon to give us this strength up until now that turns out we don't need. And we don't even know that when we're walking away. This person in the red is actually in pain. They're like not happy about taking this journey, but they recognize that they have to, and it's time to just walk away from this nonsense. And it's hard because each one of those cups contains something that is valuable to you. It's worked for you. It's given you strength. It's given you motivation. It's given you inspiration. Pleasure, pain, all these things. And now it's like, wow, I gotta just kind of like put all that away and walk away and then go through this journey of in darkness and finding out who I am. And that's hard. That's actually, turns out it's kind of hard work. It's not easy. Although it is. It's simple, not easy. That's better. It's simple, not easy. But that said, though, so that's the inner lesson. That's the truth and secret of the 8 of Cups, right? And now and in this particular circumstance, over and over again, is this idea of you seeking, right? This was you're like, I'm looking for something, right? What are you looking for? I'm looking for me. How am I going to find that? By making light. And then the action card is walk away from these things that you think you need to make that happen. This is the airy part of water. Air, water. The airy part of water. What does that mean? It means it's time for the water to move, to not stay still. But anyway, that said, of course it is. Yeah, are you kidding? And if it wasn't, then that means you never loved him, which we're not questioning. So of course it's hard. Are you kidding? Now, I have a question, and I don't mean to be dad, but I have to be dad for a minute, all right? Random active wisdom. Name one thing you've ever done in your life that was worth it, that wasn't hard. Sorry, I remembered. So that said, you know, of course it's hard. It's scary. It's not fair. You put so much time and energy in, and you know, you didn't. This isn't what you signed up for. All kinds of stuff's about, you know, and as you begin to heal, you slip, and then your feelings come back, and then they play their narcissistic game of making sure that they stay in your head and in your heart, right? And there's all kinds of things that come with this thing that you just went through, and it's really unfortunate, you know, it really is. But here's the problem: knowing is a mental activity. Knowing that you'll be better off doesn't mean you feel that, right? Like, it's easy for your mind to know that. Wow. So you are 20, which means that this was 1/5 of your life with this individual. Did he? Well, obviously he did. Okay. So he got her pregnant and then married her. And he didn't tell you. Wow. I don't know. I'm assuming that, but that's I don't know. Is that what happened? Because I mean, so you've known this guy since 16, and now he's married with a kid. After he proposed to you. Oh. So you didn't get together till later. Yeah. Wow. You know, I know that. Facebook did me in, man. You know, I was late to the Facebook game on purpose. I didn't, you know, I don't know. I don't like social media. I use it because it's necessary in today's mode of communication with a certain segment of the population that I happen to have an audience in, but I hate it. And I fought Facebook for a long time. And finally one time, some stuff went on in my family that was serious, and my family was communicating using Facebook, and I was forced into opening up an account. And so I said, well, fine. I went with it, made a profile, whatever the case, and it took no time for me to develop a relationship with somebody I used to go to school with. And, you know, because I was, anyway, long story short, and it didn't end well. It was bad, and they were married, and I didn't know, and it's just awful. And, you know, I was betrayed and all these things. So I completely understand what you're going through, because I actually went through it. And although I didn't go in with an expectation of us having a relationship in a long term, I went in kind of blank, like, let it be what it's going to be. But then when feelings started to develop further than that, it was like, okay, wait a minute, you know. But so it's a different circumstance, but similar in that degree, you know, like that. It was a total betrayal. So I understand, you know. Yeah. So, walking away is hard, and so let's do the soul card. Let's do a soul card, and what this is for people who just entered the room, or just to clarify, and for you, Ariel, to clarify, the next card I'm going to pull. Let's read you first. I knew that we were living together, so. Can't judge you. I can't. Let's see. Who in the room thinks that they can judge Ariel? Not a one. You really needed that connection, and I understand that. And man, that sucks. Yeah, that's the bubble popping is really painful. It is. I know, because it's a little fantasy for that period of time. You can have your little fantasy. But something inevitably happens to pop that. And, you know, it's a shame it took 4 years for that bubble to pop, because 4 years is vested. That's roots emotionally, you know, that's tough. So what the soul card's going to do here is going to, now don't forget, just to be clear, the soul, your real self, knows what's going to happen and already experienced it. And so, and this isn't us asking the question and it answering. It's calling out to you always. It's truth. You don't need me or cards or anything else to know this. You have to experience the quiet and listen without your ears. But that said, when we're able to do that, we can finally hear this thing that it's telling us. And so the next card I pull is going to be, it's really loud, the world is crazy, I'm empty, I need help. What do I need to hear? I can't turn off the sound, so I need you to speak in a different way. Will you speak through Michael and these cards? And tell me what I need to know. So that's what we're going to do. We know that the goal here is for you to enter this journey, which is freaking hard. Because this asshole is just one of the cups that's missing from the pile. But look at all these others that you have to now walk away from, and that's not going to be easy. So I get it. And you know what? You don't have to take this journey, but if you don't, then you're a liar to yourself, right? And you kind of pause growth, and you stop, and you don't feel. We were literally built to desire love and to achieve ecstasy upon receiving it. And we don't know that because we have never loved a day in our lives. And so we don't know what we're missing. We think that the feeling of loss that you feel right now is nothing compared to the power of the real thing. And once you know it, it doesn't ever disappear. So, but that said, how can we achieve that? What are you saying that she can't hear because of the din of the world? The mind. Let's see. I don't know if I should cut or just go with what's on top. I'm going to let you decide. Should I cut or go what's on top? Let me find a spot. Okay, so I can either take this card or the one that's on top. You tell me. This is your soul speaking. And don't think too hard. You're going to have an answer, and then you're going to think about it. Give me the first answer. Is it the top card or the middle card? Or it might be the one on the bottom. Are you feeling bottom? Cut. Okay, so that's this. Incidentally, what's on the bottom? Now I'm curious. The devil. Ooh, scary. The devil is seated on your sword there. So it's not really scary. All that means is that he only has power over your mind. There's nothing to be afraid of. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to use this one at the top. So just put that at the top. And this card here is the message from your soul. Mario, I know you can't hear me. The world is too loud. But here it is. Oh. Any tarot readers in the room? She's in the state of the Queen of Cups, and she's looking for a message from her spirit to say, what is it that I need to know? And the spirit says, cup. Ace. That's just so powerful. So there's a couple of things that came up in this reading a few times, and here's this is sort of like the final word. And then we'll go through specific questions that you have or whatever the case may be. But this is kind of the final word of what's going on here, because sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And first of all, Ariel, I want to thank you. And for anybody who entered the room late, I spoke about how you're supposed to approach the tarot from the perspective of the reader and from the perspective of the seeker. And I made a deal tonight with everybody here, including Ariel, that I'm going to show up and I'm going to take this seriously and I'm going to make this holy. And if we're able to do that, then an actual real union takes place. And in that union, something new is created. And that thing that's created is you elevated. But I need you to show up for that to happen. And if you don't, then it won't. And you're stuck in the Hierophant getting your little white book reading compared to the High Priestess. And if we're lucky and this connection can happen truly, then we get the Fool, which is the truth and openly. So right now we're still in the High Priestess stage of this reading, which is the truth in secret, right? Hello, Artie. So that said, I just wanted to thank you because I feel that you showed up. I feel like you took this seriously, and I feel like you allowed for this thing to happen, and so I feel like we may actually wind up at a good place. And so here is the kind of the final answer here. This is kind of a beautiful reading so far. Let me just put it in the order that it was in, right? Everything kept coming up over and over again, and when the tarot does this, you have to just kind of listen up. It kept coming up over and over again, this idea of you seeking and going into the self, looking into who you really are here, because you just spent this period of time identifying with an individual and your relationship as your identity, and that's gone, and now none of that shit that you made up matters. And so you're kind of like in this transitionary period where you can maybe rethink who you are, which turns out actually secret. We're all doing that anyway, always, all the time. You're a human being, not the noun. You're a human being, the verb. You're being whatever. I'm being a tarot reader right now. I'm not a tarot reader. I'm being that. I'm an infinite point of light, occupying a body, being fooled into thinking the thoughts are mine, right? So we are always creating ourselves, but then we also stop participating in that process and just go with whatever thing that our ego tells us is the truth at that point, and we latch onto that as our identity. Now, you just went through some tower shit. The tower is different because once that happens, there's no going back. You're changed forever. But now there's this transitionary period where you get to create. And so we ask the soul, listen, man, I'm having trouble and I need your help. Okay, hon, what's up? Well, I don't know what to do. I thought I knew, but now I'm totally empty. Okay, walk away from everything that you thought mattered to you and works into that dark cave over there by yourself. Oh, yeah, I'm good. I think I'm gonna go get a latte instead, right? And so, I need some more advice. Okay, some more advice. Well, that advice is Ace of Cups. Now, this is a very interesting elemental kind of idea here, because it's not just cups, which mean heart, but it's also feminine. It's also receptive. It also is the vessel of nourishment. It's the place that the thing that keeps us alive comes from. It's the source of water. It's a biggie. But there's a couple of implications as well in the Ace of Cup. Like, for instance, the Ace of Cup is kind of the elemental. It has not manifested in our lives yet. It's there for us. What we need to do is to apply an energy to it in order that it may become manifest. It doesn't actually physically exist yet. It just possibly can exist. It also refers to Mem, which is the major arcana equivalent would be the Hanged Man. which is the willful decision to sacrifice in order that you can gain enlightenment. And it's also the idea of like Peter, who said, I refuse to be hung the way Christ was. I insist on being crucified upside down because I can't. I won't be. It was an act of reverence. And it is also a very, very secret, holy interpretation of Christ and Peter crucified together. Right? One upside down, one. Anyway, different lecture. So the Ace of Cups gives us what it is an opportunity, because it has not been made physically manifest yet. And so what the message is, what you're telling yourself, is that once it's empty, it can be filled up again with your choice. So it's okay that the cups are empty. That was on purpose. And I've talked about this before with people who have been through some very heavy stuff, and some of them are in the room right now. The only means to enlightenment is destruction. The tower is the only vehicle to the star. The tower is the only vehicle to true enlightenment. I'm sorry, it's true. You cannot get to enlightenment, to truth, without dying. So die daily. Because each time we do, our cup is empty. And we get to decide what to fill it with. If we don't participate in that decision, then the world decides. I don't know. I don't trust the world. Sorry about you, but I don't. However, if you do participate, then you can direct your emotion. And that emotion can be a very, very powerful energy of your own fire applied as water, your own fire without the definition, without being used by, without the context of another. And so it's almost like a willful decision to stay empty and to go through this work so that you can be prepared to fill the cup up properly. Therefore, when you do come across the real kind, the man that's going to be what you need, and that you are completely driven and compulsed to do the same thing, right? It's a give and take of, I want them to be the greatest them they can be, and I want it to help them in any way I can. What can I give you to let you be that? And they have the same compulsion towards you. What can I give her? How can I make her happy? And if the two of you are in that same place of kind of being this give and take, by the way, one of the best ways to give is to receive, right? If somebody really loves you and wants to do for you, let them. And you're going to be giving to them in that act, right? But there's this give and take dance that happens when it's real. And if you're not prepared for it, if you're all filled up with a bunch of junk and there's no room. And so now what we do is we have this opportunity to craft our vector, our direction, emotionally, because it's in a transitionary period. And so now the actions that you were told to take is to walk away, and you said you needed help, and it said, well. And so, it's time to just reflect. You don't have to do anything right this minute, other than to take the time to kind of like go through the process of kind of looking at some of these cups one at a time. We don't have to attack each one of these. One at a time, and go, okay, well, what is this cup that I need to walk away from? I'm going to tell you a quick story of one of my cups. And this is going to put into perspective the work that I'm asking you to do. And this is really, I think, going to be the bow on the box to tie this together, because, what do I do next is an important question. And what I'm trying to do here is is to draw out of you the truth openly, to turn you into the fool. And so here's my cup. One of the cups I had to let go of and walk away from. I was a little kid, and I was at a restaurant with my dad and a couple of his buddies, men. I was a little boy. They were ordering, and it got to my father, who ordered a rare hamburger, and he said something along the lines, we're from New York and we're Italian, and he had a thick accent, and it was something along the lines of like, I want it bleeding, I'll put it on like 10 seconds, flip it over, give it to me. And then it gets to me. It's time for me to order the food, and so, wow, Zeus. Right? My father ordered a rare hamburger, almost bleeding, and that's what a man does, and so that must be what I want, right? And so I ordered a rare burger, and so it got to me, and I said, yeah, I want a rare burger, my little squeaky voice. And my dad, without even looking at me, he looks at the waitress, and he puts his hand like this at me, and looks at the waitress, and says, he doesn't want that. I forget what he ordered me, chicken nugget, I don't even remember. And I was devastated, right? Because now I made the decision to eat this thing because that's what a man eats. And I was just told by the world, you're not a man, kid. And that hurt, right? And I felt this big. Now, just shortly after that, in fact, days later, I was with my grandparents. My dad was not there. I was with my grandparents, and we were at a diner, and it got to me. And I ordered a rare hamburger. And I didn't say it exactly like my dad, but I alluded to the fact I'm like really rare, and that's what I got. And I took a bite, and it was disgusting. It was mushy and like cold, and like it just wasn't good. It was actually kind of gross to a kid, especially. Imagine, now as an adult, I have a special appreciation for the myriad of textures that the mouth offers. But I didn't as a child, and this was really disgusting. So, so I choked down rare hamburgers for 30 years. I just ordered them, and that's what I did. And I went through an experience that was very profound one time, where I found myself. I was about 35 years old when that happened, this experience. Well, maybe a little younger. But something woke me up to the fact that why I was eating the rare burgers. That was the point. Why I was eating them. And when I came to the conclusion that it was this moment, it was literally just this one moment, formed this entire train of personality. And, I eat rare meat, I was at a bar with my girlfriend. It was a Sunday for football, and I ordered a pitcher and some appetizers, and we were getting ready to watch football. And then we kind of got hungry, and so it was time to order food. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I'll have and then it dawned on me. I was about to say the word burger, and I thought, I'm going to get a well-done burger. Damn it, I'm going to eat a well-done burger. Anyway, long story short, I ordered this well-done burger, and it was sex. It was life. It was like rightness. It was like, and it turns out, even to this day, my favorite flavor is burnt. My coffee is as dark as can be. I don't mind toast that went a little too long. I like to kind of do the going back to my childhood thing and like burn an Eggo every once in a while. That kind of idea, right? But the point is that I was finally, a little piece of me came back that was always there, that I pushed away, and I enjoyed this burger, and it was so good. And I want that forever, always. And then you start to move on to the next cup, and you find all these moments of these things that formed your personality, your decisions, the way you see the world. All these things change when you're able to kind of wake up to the fact that who you have become is a product of the world and people, and who you are is blank and is an empty cup. And we have the opportunity to fill this with whatever we want. So the question is what do we really want? And the way to do that is that once these cups are empty, there's nothing in the way, and you can have this conversation with yourself, and your will and its will align. Okay? So that said, I'm going to pause and ask you how you feel. just kind of separate these out here. Let's see. The only question that matters. That is the only question that matters. And it's out of the scope of this reading right here. But the work is conversation. There's a little bit of some guidance with respect to like the types of circumstances that elicit these types of reactions in us, these sort of personality forming kind of character building moments. They're not all negative, they're not all positive, but it takes some conversation and some talk and some honesty. It's definitely not something that I would ever do with anybody in a live stream. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so you get it then, you know? Man, it's like I love that too, like when you walk in on the kitchen and realize that you left the toaster on for too long, but then there's that anticipation of the pleasure of that smell when you open the toaster, and it never disappoints. It never disappoints. I love that little burnt smell. Anyway, how about chicken cutlet when it goes a little too long in the oil? You know what I'm talking about. But so, but the work is, it's simple but hard, and it's a conversation. It's not a one-on-one thing with respect to discovering these things. However, there is the moment where you have to. It is a very private, intimate, quiet, in the dark kind of meditation on each cup of saying, now that I know where it came from, let's just kind of face this thing that I'm like the real reason I'm trying to cope with it, right? So in the case of the hamburger, that's the white book meaning, that's the outer meaning, that's the Hierophant, right? That's the lie told openly. But the truth and secret of that circumstance was the idea that I felt inferior and was seeking validation, right? And the inner meaning is that I went through some stuff that kind of knocked around my self-esteem. And if I really considered what the cause of that injury to my self-esteem was, and I'm able to heal from that, any of the things that arose from that, including the need to be fulfilled by somebody else, disappears. And personal strength occurs, right? So that's the idea of how to define the cups. Oh my God, burnt s'mores. Oh yeah. Yes, we'll be friends. We're gonna get along fine. So yeah, that's the gist of the work, Ariel. It's the idea of having a conversation and going through some of these life events and kind of getting to the core of what these are. Tarot is very useful with that respect because it's a very good psychological device, not just spiritual. And I can certainly say I would be happy to offer you some techniques with respect to how to do that, and even walk you through some of the beginning steps, through that process. So if you are interested in doing that, contact me. That number, you can either text or leave me a voicemail, or you can email me at mcarrus@gmail, and we can set a time that we can sit down and have a chat, whether it's Zoom or over the phone or whatever's comfortable for you. I like, typically I do YouTube streams. I like a private stream because there's certain things I want to be able to show you visually. And if you want to do a face-to-face, what we can do is like put in like a Zoom call, and then I'll just use my software here to have you as the second face, so you can see me and the screen, and I can see you, so there can be a little bit of a deeper connection there. But okay, so I'm available for that as well. So just text me at that number, or email me. And if you email me, put your phone number in there as well, so I know who to call or how to get you. And if you don't want to do phone numbers, whatever method, if you do WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever the case may be, just let me know, okay? And we'll go from there. So are we good though? Did you want? I mean, I think we're pretty solid on this. We could look further, but I think that for the adamant nature of the message here, it would almost be insulting to look into this situation any further. tonight. We should just recognize that we got what we were asking. And so if you do want to read anything else, I think we should use a different subject, and we should approach this privately, separately, with the intent of figuring out those cups, okay? So yeah, does that work, Ariel? And now that said, though, right now the list is it's probably changed. It's been some time. I got about 2 hours. It's been some time, so I imagine that we're not going to have the same batch of people here. If we do, I'll go through the list, but we'll see where we actually stand about who's in the room and so forth in a little bit. So that said, oh, thank you for showing up. Thank you for allowing this thing that we do to make sense and to be real and to respect the work here. You know, when you allow that to happen, it becomes holy, right? And so that's, you know, that matters. That means a lot to me. Okay, so before I open up the list moving forward, I just need a sec here. That was a lot, just to kind of, you know, get my head straight and kind of move some of the energy around. You know, very much like we talked about here. What just happened is the Two of Cups here. That's a union. That's a real union, right? Now, I don't want to be crass, and so I won't talk about but it is that type of level, right? There's actually on a soul level that connection takes place. And when the reading is done, if the connection was real, there is a feeling of loss, right? There's a feeling of closeness that is kind of gone, and now it's thankfully short-lived. It's just like, okay, you know, you take a minute, and if you are being, and this is for anyone in the room too that's a reader, there's an intuitive connection that happens, right? There's an empathic cord that is tied, and when that's severed, it sort of hurts for a sec, right? There's a little emotional and psychic jolt. So I just need a chance to reset, ground, and so that I can sort of shake off Ariel's energy and be more, kind of open to, you know, whatever. And she's going to kind of go through the same thing too, right? Artie, hello. Good. So Artie is still on the list. And that list is probably going to change dramatically, right? Anybody else that's on this list here, that's Shika, Arpita, Yanabi, Simran. If you are here, please give me a thumb up or a hey, and if not, then I'm just going to like shift the list and we'll go from there. Also, Lauren, if you want to jump on, let me know. And don't worry about the private thing. We'll just like a free thing tonight, and you and I will talk privately, okay? But if you want, I'll put you on the list as well. And anybody else that's interested, let me know. I'm going to step away for just a couple of minutes and reset. Make myself a coffee. Look at this crime of an empty cup of coffee right now. So I need to correct the injustice that is a lack of caffeination. It's my duty. It's my contribution to capitalism. So that said, great. So Artie, you're here. You are next. Let me just reset the list here. And I am going to keep the list closed because there's a couple of subjects that I want to talk about as well. But Artie has been very patient, and I want to make sure that I'm able to speak to anything that she needs. So let's do that. Let me save this. There we go. Okay, great. And Ariel, again, you can go through the this video in the future and look up anything that you'd like to. But I believe just okay, what are we looking at for your birthday? I forgot your birthday already. June 4th. Okay, sorry. 9 of Swords. Okay. So just to be clear, for the screenshot, Nine of Swords. Now, the Nine of Swords and in Gemini, Nine of Swords. Gemini is ruled by the Lovers, and I'm not going to get into the Lovers right now because it's a pretty heavy thing, but when we speak in private, we'll go over what the Lovers means, unless it comes up in someone's reading tonight, in which case, I will be getting into it. But there's the levels of meaning here, and it's probably deeper than people think, and it does not mean love. And so this is your Deacon, and this is your Sun sign. Okay, and so just for the snapshot, you can, and these do not change throughout your life. It's just like your Sun sign, the 9 does not change. Okay. And so that said, thank you so much, and I appreciate your popping back in on the stream, and we'll talk about other stuff when you send me that email. Okay, great, thank you so much. All right, so then I'll be right back. Okay, and then so let me put Lauren on here as well. Give me a moment. Great. Okay, perfect. And the list is closed. Okay, so just need some time to impose upon my Keurig, and I'll be right back. Artie, I know your birthday. Okay. Alrighty. Why do I know your birthday, everybody? Because Artie and I share a birthday, which means I know your birth card is the Ten of Wand. And also that your major is Temperance. And I'm just going to pop those up before we do the reading. Don't worry, we're going to go a little bit further tonight than normal. And Ten of Wand. Okay, there we go. Ready, okay. And just for the heck of it, the period of time that we're in right now, I'll pop up as well, just so we have, context here. And so let's move Temperance. Okay. And let's move that 10. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, Artie, so this is what we're looking at just with respect to kind of right now, the energies that are surrounding the period of time. This is your birth card in the Ten of Wand, which we talked about, that burden that we carry, and it's a willful act. It's the choice to carry. And there's the lesson of the fact that that's not typically always sustainable. And that we can find a balance. We don't have to always give in order to be loved or liked. We just think that. And we act upon that. It's part of the Sagittarian, the performance. And sometimes that performance is doing for others to such a degree that we hurt ourselves, right? That we overextend to the degree that not only can we no longer help, which is important because that fulfills that need that we have, that drive to give, but then we can't. And so we're unfulfilled, and so are the people that have now depended upon us because we put ourselves out there, right? It's not their fault that they've come to depend upon us, since we train them to do that as part of this game that we play. And so, we have to find that balance. And what is that balance? It's temperance. Now, temperance is often misunderstood as doing without. Right? It's the idea of not giving into our base emotions, and that's the surface meaning. The inner meaning of temperance is the idea of the opposite, really. Enjoy every sip to its fullest. Don't miss any of it. However, don't identify with it. Don't let it become the target. And that includes being seen, being needed. There does need to be this balance. And what that is that enjoy the act of giving, because in doing so, you receive. And when they receive, you receive. And so it's a beautiful, there's no greater magic than the act of giving by receiving. One day I'll talk about that. That's a very powerful thing. And temperance, it allows it. Rosaria, thank you for popping in. Temperance is the lesson on how to do that. 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the ground. And notice too that none of the water leaves the cups. There's other cards where the water, for instance, is being poured in. The star is an example of that, right? The star shows a very similar circumstance to this card here. But the difference in the star is that the water is being poured out, and the foot does not get into the water. There's an occult reason for that, and we won't get into the star tonight, but specifically these two cards are similar but different on purpose. In your case, and in the case of myself and anybody else born under the sign of Sagittarius, has this idea of the water staying in the cups. And so there's this control of that. And also at the same time, it's not about lack. It's not that you don't drink at all. It's that you don't get drunk. Get drunk, drink enough so that that pleasure is still possible, and that it doesn't turn into suffering. Drink every sip with that anticipation of the smell. I know what it's going to taste like. It's bitter at first, and then I drink mine black, with sugar, no milk. And that dark hits the tongue, and then the sweet rushes over it, and that sweet is like that. And then when it's all done, and it's just your tongue going through the experience of missing the coffee, there's this whole new kind of like toasty vibe. Here it is. Never disappoints, unless you miss it, and then it's just a sip of coffee. And how horrible is that, right? You can make it something more, and we have the power to do that. And so it's about not missing it, but also not giving in to where it's like, imagine if I spent my whole day just thinking about nothing but that sip of coffee. Well, I'm not going to get too far, and it's kind of a warning against addiction. Another version of this card as well, which is not an accident, that it looks the same, and it's the one directly after it is the devil. And what this is the lack of balance leading to compulsion and addiction, right? But so at the end of the day, we have an opportunity here that this power is easy for us. It's something that we're able to access when needed. And it's actually the lesson of how to use the Ten of Wands to our advantage. And to take the fact that we have this compulsion to give, and rather than turning it into a desire to be liked, we turned it into a desire to actually contribute to the growth of another person by willfully taking some of their burden. And you don't carry 10, you carry 2 at a time, right? Until all 10 get carried, and then everyone's happy. So that said, thank you for popping in from Argentina. That's so great. Artie, what would you like to look at tonight? I'm going to leave it up to you, and we'll look at specifically any circumstance that you would like to read about. And in the meantime, I'm just going to take another sip, and we'll go from there. You know, Artie and I share a birthday, but I graduated high school in 1993. I don't know if that dates me, but yeah, when you were born, I was 3 years out of high school. What's coming next in your life? Sure. Okay. Let's take a look at that. Okay. That's an important question. I want to get myself in the right place for that, because that's his, and you know, I'm not going to share details. It's nobody's business, but Artie's going through stuff, and it's not a joke. And whatever people think is going on in their lives, there's sometimes that you have to recognize that there's others out there that are experiencing things that we can never understand in our wildest dreams. And so all we can do is to try to offer perspective, in the hopes that there's a piece of their heart that will find some truth in that. And so all I can do tonight, Artie, is to offer that openness, and to commit to you that I'm going to do my best to stay out of this situation emotionally, and I'm going to try to tell you the truth, and just to try to be, rather than a which is the opposite of what I usually talk about. Rather than shining my own light, I'm going to reflect the light of God. And the intent here is that the message that you hear is not me using my intuitive power, the skill I've developed, but rather get out of my own way and just use my mind as a vehicle for communicating His word. Okay. So, do one more. We gotta stop, so I'm gonna stay right there. Okay, so would you like me to cut the deck, or should I leave it how it is? What are your thoughts? My first inclination is that the cards are ready the way they are. And I had a sensation of taking 3 cards, the top, one from the middle, well, not the middle, but from a cut, and then the bottom. And so that's what I'm going to do. And so first I'm going to cut, and we'll use that as the first card. Okay. Because your inclination was to cut. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just cut here. I'm going to use that as the first card. The second card is almost floating off the top like it really wants to come. That's going to come here. Okay. And then we're going to use the bottom card as the first piece of advice. So, what we're looking at here first is, as we enter this new season, it's a period of time where the growth has taken place and it's now time for harvest. And so there's plenty of seeds that we plant throughout the year that we're not even conscious of. And yet, due to the energy of this season, we find ourselves, unbeknownst, in a period of collection, of bounty. And if we're not aware of the things that we're going to gain during that period, we might miss it. And so what we're going to look at here in these 3 cards are, during this period of time that we're entering, where we have this energy of harvest, what is it we should look for? What are these seeds that we planted that we didn't know? And what are these things that we're looking for that have grown, and it's time for us to go ahead and receive? Okay. The first card is the Emperor. The Emperor is the energy of Aries. And if you look here on the wheel as an example as well, you'll see that Aries is broken up into 3 sections, which are Mars, the Sun, and Venus. But it's also broken up into these 3 cards, right? And this is very insightful with respect to how we read the tarot and the majors, is that it has this energy of the 2, 3, and 4 of Wand kind of built in, right? And so just for the sake of the reading here, I'm going to pop those up so that there's we have some insight. And so what we're looking at is the 2, the 3, and the 4 of Wand, which represent the Deacons that are all part of the story of the Emperor. Okay. And so what we have in this energy here is the Emperor saying, Yida, hello, thank you for popping in. So the energy of the Emperor, you know, it does cover a couple things. It covers Aries, Tzadi, which is a letter that's irrelevant in this particular circumstance, and these 2 symbols here as well are not relevant. They deal with a different kind of magic. But in this particular case, when you look at the story of the wands, the wand is the soul card, and so this is going to be a period of time where you are entering personal motivation. And what I mean by this is the 4 suits, the wand, the cup, the sword, so forth, the pentacle, represent 2 things majorly. The first is the states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, plasma. But it also refers to the body, the mind, the heart, and spirit. And there is intrinsic to this an order. Fire is first. Fire gave birth to everything. Fire applied to water gave birth to air. And then the interplay of these 3 elements gave birth to earth. Fire was first because it is the primal energy, the motivating factor behind all motion in the universe, all extension of will. The 2 is the card. We talked about this earlier in the stream. The 2 is a card of waiting, but more important than just waiting, it's the end of waiting. It's the recognition that the waiting has not accomplished what you were looking for, and so you're finally in a position of putting that wand aside and looking out with the earth in your hand, the world, at this idea of what are the possibilities. The 3 is a point where you've gone through this process a little bit, and now you're ready to start to enroll others. And so now you can recognize that it's better to go through this journey together as opposed to alone. And the 4 is this idea of the celebration that occurs when you've come together and the homecoming. These people in the back they're happy to see you. They're cheering that you're here. Okay? So sometimes it refers to homecoming or family or a reunion of some kind. And now this requires, however, the enrollment to take place, right? Because the one of the main lessons in this idea here of the Emperor is the idea, hang on a sec, my little guy is sneezing his head off. What's up, puppy? Let me just give him love for a second and see if I can snap him out of his little sneeze attack. This is my Arlo. He's a Chihuahua Dachshund, and sometimes Chihuahuas, they can have this what they call the inner sneeze, and it can become a stressful for them if you don't kind of snap them out of it. You okay, my boy? Okay, buddy. You seem better. Okay, I'll leave you alone now. Okay. Sorry about that. A little dad moment. Okay, so and the journey requires participation, I guess, is the point. It's the energy is there for us, and how we direct and use it is what matters, and is what's going to determine that path. The Emperor also is a very important lesson here, that we need to take authority. We need to take agency. There's different kinds of authority when it comes to the figures in the tarot, but the Emperor is absolute. Notice there's no scales, because it's not about fairness. It's about this is what you want and this is what you need. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the surrounding energies of this period of time. Okay. First of all, the 4 of Disc is very often looked at as selfishness. Okay? And now why that comes about, I think, is kind of based on the imagery and based on people's initial opinions when they first kind of take a look at this card, is somebody that clearly is focused on the money, right? But the other idea here of the 4 of Disc, this is the inner meaning, the truth and secret, is the idea that like their feet are on the ground, right? They're covering the discs, and there's a solid foundation of their footing. Their mind is steady, and they're focused on a certain thing, and so all of these energies together have this idea of stability in the manifest world. Now, what this also, however, refers to is a source of income or finances. What I mean is that there's money related to this upcoming period of time that will be exchanged. And what I see is that you are not the source of the money. You are the recipient in some fashion, or to utilize it in some fashion during this period of time. The idea is it represents the energy of the sun in Capricorn, and what that means, if we know vocabulary of astrology, Capricorn is a very practical energy, and it's one that sort of does what needs to be done and doesn't really have patience for trite things that get in the way. And so it's definitely a person who's good with money, and it also implies that there's going to be a need for it, and so it's not bad to save. And so this person, they're not a miser, they're practical. And, it's everybody can call them cheap all they want until, like the brakes fail and you have the money to fix them. And you don't have to put it on credit or go into debt or, borrow or whatever the case, right? And so, you can call it greed, you can call it stingy, you can call it miserly, or you can call it practical. But what it also implies is that there's going to be this necessity for this in that period. Now, we have the Star. And the Star is a card that I've mentioned here on the channel a couple of times. In some of my tarot rants and so forth. The Star is a card that represents who we are after the Tower. The Tower happened. It's scary. It hurt. It turned out, looking back, that there's nothing we could have done about it. It was out of our control. It's not like we made a decision and the decision led to this thing. Nobody that's in this tower knew it was coming. Nobody that's in this tower is responsible for what's happening to them. But it doesn't matter. It happened. And the lesson of the Tower is transformation. Because the card immediately preceding the Tower is the Star, which is the outcome. What the Tower refers to is the destruction of the self, and that's not the destruction of the ego. You can't do that. We talk about that a lot in self-help and in psychology and in spiritual growth, destroy the ego. Well, it turns out you're all wrong. I'm sorry. I know it's lofty, but you can't destroy the ego. It's necessary to interface with reality. What we can do is take agency back from it and turn it into a tool as opposed to us being a zombie. It's very important. The ego is what allows us to show up for a job interview and nail it. To drum up the strength to look them in the eyes honestly and say, you're really pretty and I think that we should get to know each other. So we need it. And it has its place. But when we give into it and it becomes who we are, that's a problem. But however, sometimes in our lives there's experiences that happen out of our control that destroy that. The way of our life, our worldview, the thing we thought we were, is so thoroughly crushed that there's no coming back. And so now we have not an opportunity, like in some of the readings tonight, for change. We have no choice. And we are going to transform. What we turn into is very important, because the Star is a period of time where we are shed of all that and we are this new self, the original, actually. Not the new per se, but the new from our perspective. It's what we always are. It's what we've always been. It's what we are right now. It's what you are right now. But don't know it because you're being blinded by the costume that we wear. If the body is the thinker, we're the observer of the thought, and the Star represents the observer. And so, when it comes to the Tower and these things that occur in our lives, I've mentioned this before, the Tower is the only way to get to the Star. There is no growth, there is no peace, there is no self without the Tower. It is the only doorway, it is the only vehicle. And so that's scary, but the reality is, and thankfully, if you can find any good in it, we don't have a choice, and so we're kind of forced to go through that. And so it makes it easier, because if we had to choose, most of us wouldn't, right? We would do whatever we had to avoid this circumstance. And thankfully, sometimes the universe forces our hand, because growth can happen. Now, what you can do here, that's the danger, the thing that you have to look out for, is when you are in this state of the Star, you are receptive. and can very easily then be manipulated into bad thinking about yourself or your decisions or other things, looking at the world. The world is ugly. The world is ugly. We have to find the beauty. And when we're in this receptive state, it's almost childlike again, from a degree, emotionally especially. And we have to be careful. Yeah. Yes, it is. And there's no easy way to go around it. There's no way to make it less painful. In fact, the pain is kind of the power. It's the the thing that drives it. But that said, though, the transformation is very real and is necessary. Now, but during this phase, if you're not careful, we do run the risk of potentially becoming something else for someone else. And so this is the time when we have to really say, okay, there's only one relationship that matters right now, and that's me and my God. And what can I do to make that stronger? Because that's what's going to maintain the star. The star is very precious, and it can very easily be shifted and taken and used. And what we're able to do here when we're in this period of time of the star is like these people in judgment. Give it up. Take some time to mourn the loss. Of course you should do that. And set your mind on the path toward getting what you want, and to what led you to the point of the tower, so that you can navigate moving forward into the future toward making that right. But while you're in the period of the star, it's important that we move toward judgment. And what judgment is referring to, I'm going to forget about the surface meaning. The truth is you got to let go and give in. Just you have to be okay walking empty for a minute. And that's not easy. It hurts. Like it's a physical pain, I know. How dare I ask you to do that? Who am I to do that? And it's the only way. So what winds up happening here is that you make room for truth. We talked about that before with a cup, the empty cup. This is a little different. This is letting go. But what that offers is the opportunity moving forward, and we're going to talk about that in a minute here. Opportunities that wouldn't have existed otherwise because you're coming from the wrong place emotionally. You have to allow the initial pain to heal. And when you can do that, you can now better communicate with the universe your want and your needs. The star is a very powerful place because you can basically mold your universe from this stage. It gives you the power to do that. But you can't if you're not ready and you haven't let go. There's no room. You keep filling the cups up with the past. And so for you to be able to achieve the thing that you want is going to require you to let go of some stuff and to approach it from a totally different perspective, so that you're not injured any longer, and rather you're just simply walking the momentum of karma. And when you do that, it answers. And rightness has to happen. It's the law of nature. There is no avoiding that. And so as soon as we walk correctly, the scales level, peace, the end of suffering. But we have to let go. Lord, don't give me answers. Give me the strength to walk without them. Don't take away my pain. Give me the strength to know that your love is always present. Give her a little glimpse to remember that you're always there. In your name we pray, amen. So here's the deal. That's powerful. And the first step in this process has already been taken. And that's a big deal. What I will say is, there's a lot of work that needs to be done alone, and that's not the time for you right now. The time for you to find a situation where you can walk this together. And that's really important here, because this stage that you're in is a very powerful opportunity if you are able to grasp it. And at the end of this process, which is very upcoming, we're only talking about during the period of time of fall, early winter, is the homecoming. I'm getting emotional. And so, you know, when you've decided that you're going to put that wand down and you're tired of waiting and you are in the stage of the 3, this is where you enroll others. And it's not time for you to be alone in this process, okay? And so if you'd like, you can just reach out and we can find some time to connect, you know, where we can find local resources, whether they're spiritual, mental, or otherwise. There are resources, no matter where you are, that some of them are harder to find, but they are available, and we can maybe find a time that we can direct you to where you need to be, like where there's people that can provide, you know, during this time, the support once you've let go and once you're in this delicate state of the star where you have to be receptive, but quiet enough to hear your real side so that you know what to fill that up with, right? And who you can become. So I hope that was helpful. And I know what's going on is really hard, and I would offer any help that I can. And there's so much you can do over the phone and over the internet, and so I'm happy to try, but I would definitely say that you need some guidance. Okay, all right, good. So now my phone number here is connected to WhatsApp, so you're not stuck just using Google or having to use a system that you can't text me. You can text me over WhatsApp, so just give me a text, okay, and we'll talk about privately, not here. Well, we'll talk about your location and you know, some of the things that are available to you. Okay. All right. So let me just take a quick sip. Still warm. Okay, so as far as the list is concerned, very quickly, let me just make an adjustment here. The list is officially closed. Okay. It will not be opening again for the evening. It's 5 a.m. I've been on for almost 3 hours. Bless you, Artie. So I'm just going to throw some cards for Lauren and then talk about a couple things that I wanted to discuss today related to basically related to the combination of the tarot and sound, and how that connects with color, connects with music. And it would be very interesting to kind of combine some of these cards. Like, for instance, take your card and the card of the period of time that we're in, and see which months harmonize and which months are discord. You know, take a look at your birthday and the birthday of a love interest and see if it sounds pretty. And some other ways, you know, just do some basic readings and take a look at some of the more core examples. Like, for instance, the 3 mother letters are associated with 3 cards in the major, that being the Fool, the World, or Judgment rather, and the Hangman. And what does that sound like, right? Judgment being middle C, the Hangman G sharp, right? And the Fool E. Sounds like a C chord but with a G sharp in it, right? Waiting for that resolve into the C major. And we can talk about what that means. Spoiler, it means death. Die daily. The song is beautiful too. The act of transferring from the Hangman into death is a gorgeous thing to listen to, and we're going to be talking about that as well, that whole process. So, Zen, how's it going? It's been a little while. I miss your face. So, and some other fun stuff. But that said, let's jump to Lauren. Lauren, if you're here, just say hey so I know that you're still here. And if not, I won't be insulted. Same to you, Zen. That's the goal, man. That's what I try to do always in this circumstance, is to try to keep it light. Let it be heavy when it needs to be, but don't add to the heavy, you know what I mean? And so I'm right there with you. Oh, great. Hey. Okay. So, quickly, I forgot. I apologize. You can either locate your birth card on the wheel here, or just put your month and day in the chat, and we'll locate your birth card. And we'll go from there. Yeah, I don't remember your birthday, Lauren. I'm sorry. But if you look on the outside ring, you'll see the cards. If you happen to know what the card is, let me know. Or, okay. 2 of Swords. You're nervous. Oh, boy. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so let's see here. 2 of Swords. Okay. And what we're looking at for everyone else in the room here in the 2 of Swords is you're in the period of Libra. It's an air sign. And not just Libra, but the moon in Libra, right? So if we look at the green section to the far over there, it also implies that, you know, she's got a birthday coming up. And so it'll be time to give her some love in a couple days. And not only that, but it's also a very significant period of time just with respect to this energy I talked about before with Artie, that we're moving into the harvest phase, right? Because we're about to enter the autumnal equinox. And your birthday's around that period of time, so how beautiful. So there's a lot of kind of cool energy going on there, right? So let's just, for the sake of everyone in the room and yourself, let's just pop the card out real quick. 2 of Swords. We also have Libra. Okay. And 2 of Swords. Okay. And the period of time that we're in right now is the 10. But more important, let me just pop out the last one here. There we go. Okay, is the Hermit. Okay. And now, just for the sake of the OCDs in the room, let's just get these the right size, and so we're not all like messed up about the fact that the cards are a different size, because it's already bugging me out. Okay, so let's move this up. There we go. Okay, great. Let's just get these separated a bit. Okay, good. So now, what we're looking at here is, just to be clear, Justice is the card that is representative of your the month. All right. And let's see, two sword. Sorry, I didn't have that up on the birth card section, so now it's two of sword is there now. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the moon in Libra for the two of sword. But it's also Libra is ruled by one of the majors. In this particular case, it's ruled by Justice, right? And the period of time that we're in is the period of Virgo, which is ruled by the Hermit. Okay, and so that's why I have these cards out. And then there's your birth card in between. And now what we have here is sort of a transitional period of time, because we're moving not just from Virgo into Libra, but we're moving from spring into fall, right? And we're moving into this period of growth, if we were open to it, into harvest. And if we weren't successful during the growth, we're moving into a disappointing time. The Two of Sword has a couple of connotations. One of them is confusion. Another one is mastery of the mental state. One of the sort of hidden meanings of this card is the idea of being able to hold two ideas without identifying with either. It's sort of like keeping open so that you're able to sort of entertain both sides. And that kind of goes along with Justice as well, because Justice really is the sense of saying, okay, well, although the result is cold, Justice don't care about your feelings, right? It does care about the truth. And it recognizes that the truth is a process. It's never that easy, right? There's a process there. And so the period of time that we're in with the Hermit, which is about to change as we move into Virgo, which will be moving into Justice, is the idea of going inward so that we can better discern the truth from falsehood. You know, remember, in the light, it shows us everything, and so it's hard to see the difference. But in the dark, we're forced to use something other than our eyes, and so we use the inner light of our lantern there, right? And that inner light only shines on the truth. So we have to go through that process, or not. And if we don't, more falsehood. And if we do, what we get to do is we get to apply an identity to the two. And it becomes a slightly different circumstance, because now we use it as a tool. So instead of there being a lack of identity, it's the reality that we recognize that we created anyway. Now, Justice is different. Justice refers to balance, but it's the cold kind, meaning that it's black and white. It's the idea that what goes up must come down. If I earn $1, it's because someone lost $1. It's a zero-sum game, essentially. It's a closed system. There's 100 balls in that box. If I take one out, everything moves. Everything's connected in that degree. But there's an idea of that balance. I can't put anything in the box unless I take another one out. The box is full. That's just the way it is. There has to be that exchange, and that balance is insisted upon. And it also refers to sort of that framework, the rules of the world that we live in, that allows us to use that as a tool. So this period of time that we're in with respect to the Ten of Pentacles, this idea of looking back, seeing the stages that we've been through and our decisions through those stages, the baby, the adults, are we in a state of regret, or are we in a state of being able to become a resource for our wisdom and to share that, to make it easier on the other generations? Have we done that work or not, right? And now the Two of Swords also, remember the sword is mental activity. It's the brain, the mind, thought. Is the sense that using competing ideas can become confusing. If that's the state that you're in, this can very quickly lead to you having a personality trait of wanting to sort of be like please everyone, like walking into a room where two people are fighting and you go, oh yeah, but here's why he's right and here's why he's right, so why can't we all just get along because we're kind of both right? But you run the risk in that circumstance then of not really having an opinion for yourself. Like, what is it that you believe? And so again, we have the ability to draw that identity based on basically solidifying our relationship with Sunny Girl. Thanks for popping in. Solidifying our relationship with our higher self so that that level of communication stays open. And so when we come across phenomena, we can react with it in a way that is automatically in accordance with our self. Now that's lofty and impossible because we're humans. So we can try to slip into that place as much as possible. And so the Two of Swords ultimately is this lesson that mental activity is something that we have to be aware of. Okay. So now, as far as if there's anything in particular that you wanted to look at or any certain questions, I'd be happy to direct you in that. But that's basically where we are with the period of time that you're in right now with respect to the your like mini horoscope using the system of the Deacons. Okay. And I know that you and I are going to be speaking later, at depth, and so why don't we just kind of pause it there, and then when we connect, maybe tomorrow too. I don't know what your day looks like tomorrow between say like 2 and 6, but I would have some time to we could sit and chat and get as long and deep as you need to on whatever subject. But so what I'll do then, I'll just kind of pause that, and we'll go from there. And all I ask of anybody here, if you find any value in what I bring, and if I've contributed in any way to your growth, then I ask you just simply like the video and consider commenting. It makes a big difference. When I set out to do this, there's a lot of reasons that I'm doing it. It makes a big difference to know that there is an impact and that people are coming along, and it matters. So that said, I'm going to close the list for readings tonight, but there's just a couple of things that I'm going to be talking about before we go. And they're kind of connected. The Deacons, the voice of your soul. These things are very connected. Okay, and so what we're referring to essentially is this idea that you're able to connect the tarot and various other bodies of knowledge, right? Like we've already talked about at length, and I will continue to. We've connected the tarot with astrology. We've connected the tarot with the elemental system, fire, water, earth, and air, the fourfold truth. We've connected it with polarity, the twofold truth, right? And I yesterday introduced vaguely, kind of touched on the subject of music. By looking at the idea of our wheel and looking at the idea of that the signs are intrinsically connected to color. And how can we take that knowledge and apply that to music? So now, what you're looking at here is the correspondences from the Golden Dawn, a particular individual, actually, Paul Foster Case, that came up with these notes to delineate the notes of each major. And let's just be clear, there are 22 major arcana. Okay, I'm going to jump to the other screen here. Okay, there are 22 major arcana. Pardon my handwriting, I'm writing with a mouse. Okay? And there's 22 majors. Now, why this is important is looking at the notes here across a scale. In music, from the first note to the next note of the scale is those 7 notes plus the minors, which is another 5, is 12 notes total. Okay? So from here to here equals 12 notes. Now also there's the 7. Ignore the minors, just the major notes. There's 7. Okay? And 7 times 3, as we know from math, equals 21. Plus the Fool, which is a 0. The Fool always equals 0. That's the 22 majors right there, right? So that's how he gets these notes. But now, what about the minors? And another question that I've always had, and this is an important question to me, what about the small cards? Do we just use this system of the 3 deacons, meaning that all 3 that are in Aries are equal to the same note as Aries? No, of course not. That's too simple. That doesn't gel with my understanding either of the holographic nature of reality and of the octave level. So let's talk about what I mean by that. There are 36 deacons. 36 small cards. What's a small card? A 2 through a 10. Okay, that's 9 times the 4 suits, 36 cards. Now, so there's 36 deacons. If we take these notes up here, like we talked about, let's count them again. We have 7 notes plus the 5, which is 12. 3 octaves equals 36 notes, right? So from here to the end of this octave, there's 36 notes. That's 15 plus the notes underneath, right? Count them, they're there, I promise. And so if we were to take our wheel here, rather than applying the colors of the individual signs, pretend it's black and white, and we're going to recolor it. By using this information here, and I did not mean to zoom out on that. I apologize. Okay, and so the reality here. Let me make sure I didn't break that. Yes, I did. Apologize for that. I need to zoom out. So yeah, I use Photoshop, and I'm not using it right now. I'm using GIMP. I don't know GIMP at all, and so I'm just going with it. Thank you all for your patience in the process. Oh my gosh. In the process. How do I move the screen? Like, where's the hand? There he goes. Okay, good. Spacebar. All right, so let's try to center that a little better here. I'm sorry that got knocked out. That said, though, we have the same number of notes in 3 octaves as the number of deacons, and that's not an accident. And why do I say that? Like, why isn't there 4? And where do I put it on the scale? Very simple. Whenever you're talking about music related to accessing infinity, we're not talking about instruments, we're talking about the voice. And the human voice has a very limited range, right? And it's actually about 3 octaves. Unless you're Mariah Carey, and then you're an alien, and, you know, that's not fair. So that said, and we know the voices, right? We've all heard the voices. There's the bass, the baritone, and the tenor. Those are the three male voices, and then we have the alto, the soprano, the mezzo. And so, but now within that range, there's obviously more people can go lower and more higher. It's a general statement, but as a general statement, most people speak within a very specific kind of range, and most people sing within a specific range. And when you are praying, especially in a magical setting, in a ritual setting, a ceremonial magical setting, you don't speak, you what's called vibrate, which is the idea of singing. Cantors do this as well. Any rabbi worth his salt sings the prayers. He doesn't speak them, right? Same thing with the priest in the Catholic Church. When they sing the prayers, they're vibrating. You don't go Om. No, you sing that. Let there be a let it vibrate your chest. And so, that said, though, what we're talking about here is spoken, sung. It's a word spoken. And so, for instance, if we take the word of the Fool, we take the word of, or the letter of the Hanged Man and the letter of Judgment, those three, we can play those notes. And it's going to sound like a chord. But what we can also do is we can associate those cards to their associated letter, like actual letter of the alphabet, which then reveals to us a word. Aleph, Mem, Shin. Amish. That is the name, that is the word, Amish. The name of the three major letters of the Fool, Hanged Man, and Judgment. Those three cards represent the elements. Now, the other 7 cards are the planets, right? And so those planets are represented in the cards. For instance, the Fool is Mercury, the High Priestess is the Moon, the Empress is Venus, Emperor is... we're getting into signs. And then we jump to the other planets of the Sun and so forth, Saturn and the universe. And then the other 12 are the signs. Aries, Taurus, so on. Okay. So the gist here is that we can speak these words with the correct tone in the prayer. Instead of just saying the word Amish, we would sing the words starting with the note of the Fool, lifting to the note of the Hanged Man, and then completing on the note of Judgment. And then, which I spoke about, take the G sharp, lower it to the G, and resolve the major. And it's a beautiful sound. Anyone with a piano should do that. I'm kind of testing out how to do it over a live stream, and it worked properly with my little laptop here, but I think I figured it out, and so if I'm able to, I'll post it, or we'll do it tomorrow on a live stream. But the reality is that, so the 36 deacons... Miss King, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate that, and I encourage highly you jump in on the beginning of the stream, in order that you can check out some of the stuff that I had originally put up when I first started the stream up tonight. It's some fun stuff we talked about. Basically, the relationship between a reader and the person that we read, and how we can treat it as a holy act, which is what it is. And in doing so, well, I'll let you watch it. But thank you so much, Miss King, for popping in. That means a lot. Thank you for the love. And right back at you. I love you. And so we have these 36 notes of the 3 octaves. So what we're looking at here, this is 3, I've done it again. Okay, where's my brush? There we go. The 3 octaves. Of the piano can also be representative of the colors, right? And so we could easily take this idea, very similar to what we would have, for instance, with this wheel, or even more appropriately, when we actually do the work, we see what it is we're truly looking at, which is a pictorial representation of the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is ultimately a pictorial representation of your creation and the creation of the universe and the microcosm and the macrocosm. We've talked about this. You've read it everywhere. The as above, so below. And so what the symbol is, what the tarot is, it's the story of your life. Only it also has the ending. And so how beautiful that we get to connect with this tool that allows us to read our story that includes our ending. How great. Only it's presented in secret. And so we have to kind of go through the steps of unlocking that, right? And one of the ways that we can do that is by approaching it from all of our senses. When we first look at the tarot, we look at it from respect of our eyes. Thank you, Brooke, for popping in. Another way is to look at it or listen to it through our ears. And this would be the way to go about that. And my theory then is the small cards are the 3 octaves surrounding. And then we have the Fool, which would be that final note in the end here. That's the Fool. Okay, and that is the key. What key are we in? I'm a fan of A minor. Although F sharp is the key of the earth. The earth vibrates just like anything else that's vibrating. It has an octave. It's not audible to us, but anything that vibrates has a note, right? Well, the earth vibrates at an F sharp. Just to throw that out there. What you do with that's up to you. But that happens to be like if you were to listen to the vibration of the sound of the earth and to knock up the frequency to a range that's audible to a human, it would sound like an F sharp above middle C. So that said, and do an F sharp to an F transition. Oh my gosh, is that a beautiful chord? So that said, though, this is the short version, obviously, and you know, when you're talking about subjects like this, they're kind of technically out of the scope of like a live stream tarot reading type channel. And I do plan on putting these long form up as static videos, but I do feel that I want to plant seeds in any way that I can. And so by fooling people who come in here to get answers into learning at the same time, then we all grow, right? And so anybody who took the time to listen to what I'm doing here, I appreciate that, and thank you for participating in both of us growing. If you find anything that I'm doing valuable, all I ask is for a like on the video, and you please consider a comment, even if it's that you suck and you are totally inaccurate. It makes a difference. It shows the algorithm that there's something going on here, and that's how I get more people to see this information. The goal is to maintain the integrity of the art, and the way to do that is to spread the knowledge to as many people as we can. Okay. And so we talked about the voice of your soul and the 3 octaves. We talked about the spotlight deck for today, which was the Tarot of Ceremonial Magick, Milo DuQuette. Very interesting the way he includes the different knowledge systems, including the Hebrew, including astrology, the Deacons, you know, which are very powerful. You don't need the wheel. You could just jump on here and see the dates. You know, it gives us a little bit of insight as to how they chose these meanings, right? How do the people who came up with the meanings of the cards choose them? Well, they use the planet sign correspondence of the Deacons. What are the Deacons? The Deacons are the 10-degree periods of time on the wheel of the year, and they represent the small cards, right? And so, thankfully, Mr. DuQuette, who is a practicing magician, he's also the head of the OTO, at least in North America. I don't know otherwise. And is a passionate communicator of this knowledge. And so the fact that he published his own personal deck, that's why the artwork looks like a child drew it. And so we're very fortunate that he shared this with the world. And so now the link in the description is not an affiliate link. I don't earn commissions on artists. That's wrong. That's my opinion. But whatever, I just choose not to. So that's going to go directly to his website, and there's also an online store. Now, just to be clear, that online store is the couple who own that store are responsible for creating this deck, meaning that they're the one that kind of worked with Alon Milo to get it printed and published, and they're the ones making it and distributing it. So they're the actual source for the deck. Okay, if you're interested, then please give the money to the artist. Amazon has enough money. And very quickly, anyone else here who jumped into the room, this is just a random card for you, your lesson. This particular deck is the Deviant Moon by Patrick Valenza. Ace of Cups. Don't ever forget that we are the ones who decide what's in that cup. We fill the cup. We decide. If that cup is ever filled with anything that is outside of our energy, it's because we gave permission for that to happen. And we always have the power at every moment to take back that agency. We always have the power to remember what we've always known, which is that we are infinite beings of consciousness, created to receive this beautiful world. And we exist at the end of time, waiting for ourselves to catch up. We already know the end of our story. And we're slowly whispering that story to ourselves. And all we need to do is quiet our minds to hear it. And when we do, we have the momentum of the universe behind us. And we can't fail. Okay? And so that's the lesson for today. That's the lesson for whenever we decide to allow that truth into our lives. And to anybody I wasn't able to get to tonight, if you participate in my stream, you are privy to a free reading. I'm going to be ending the stream now, but all you got to do is remind me. That means either in the comments of this video, and go back on past videos, you'll see I honor this, and it's not a blip. I do a real reading, and I'm going to type the right there in the comments. Or you can get to me through various means, right? Email, direct message. You can text me at that number. If you're out of the United States, you can use WhatsApp on that number to text me. And I will respond. Okay? Luana, how's it going? Thank you so much for popping back in. I'm about to leave, but I'm glad I got to see your face before I go. So thank you. Okay, so and that said, I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to participate in what I'm doing here. I know I'm not your average tarot reader. I kind of take my time, and I'm a little kind of long-winded, and that's on purpose, and it's never going to change. And so I appreciate those who are attracted to that energy, and that we stick together to to continue this work that we do. Anyway, thank you so much for participating in my growth and letting me do the same. And together we can walk this path toward truth. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.